Check, check. Good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, December 11th. The time is now 6:05 p.m. and the meeting is called to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Brusher.
Here.
Councilmember Coyle. Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Patel. Councilmember Batil.
Here.
Councilmember Pointer.
Present.
Councilmember Schiff Freeman.
Here.
Adequate notice, please.
Adequate notice of this meeting as required by Open Public Meeting Act of 1975 has been provided by the annual notice sent to the Home News Tribune, Star Ledger Sentinel, and Desi Talk on December 1st, 2022, and posted main lobby municipal complex on that same date.
Thank you. Before proceeding, I'm just going to note a couple of items being added on to tonight's agenda. These will all be under the Department of Law. First is an ordinance amending Chapter 37 zoning by creating a new 3713A RC zone. The second one is an ordinance amending Chapter 37 zoning by amending several definitions pertaining to warehouses and associated zones. And the third is an ordinance amending Chapter 37 zoning by amending subsection 37.3.1, word uses definitions for truck terminals. At this time, we'll move on to the resolution of recognition. Madam Clerk, please read.
Whereas the Edison Art Society is a nonprofit organization dedicated to encouraging young artists to pursue their passion in the arts and to create programs to benefit of the community. Whereas Edison Chamber of Commerce is an organization aimed at providing awareness and networking for local businesses for Edison Township, forwarding interest of the Edison business community to various leaders throughout the township and the state. Whereas for over past 25 years, Gloria Dittman has had substantial positive impact on the community for her roles and service in the Edison Chamber of Commerce and the Edison Art Society. Whereas a member of the Edison Chamber of Commerce from 1998 to 2013, Gloria initiated numerous events that benefited Edison Township, including the State of the Township partnership with the Township and the annual Taste of Middlesex event. As a member and president of the Edison Art Society from 2013 to 2023, Gloria Dittman was a vital resource in the initiative of numerous projects throughout the township, including art exhibits at the Edison Arts Society Gallery, Paint My Piano, Arts of Amboy Avenue programs, Hometown Heroes, Veterans Banner and programs, and the creation of 8 murals throughout the township. Gloria has also furthered awareness in dance through the Edison Arts Christmas Carol Show and international dance programs. Whereas Gloria Dittman has also organized educational initiative, whether it be with Business Education Week, legal seminars for businesses while at the Chamber, and the Art Student Scholarship Program through the Edison Art Society. Now there be resolved that the Municipal Township Council of Township of Edison finds it fitting and proper to recognize Gloria Dittman for her years of service and positive influence for her initiative have had for the entire Edison community.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Just from a procedure standpoint, I will open up to the public for any public comment. I'll close the public portion. There will be a motion on the resolution. If it gets seconded, council will offer comments. We will vote on the resolution, and then Vice President Harris will offer a brief presentation. So at this time, I'd like to open up to anyone here in attendance that would like to speak on the resolution of recognition. Yes, Mr. Stolschel.
Walt Stoschel, 2118 Oak Tree Road. I think this is a very nice thing you're doing for Gloria. I've worked with Gloria on various things since like the 1990s, I think, and she's always been a pleasure to work with. One of the best things I think we did was the Wreaths Across America at the Piscataway Town Burial Ground. And I've worked with her with the Garden Club. And I know she's probably been active longer than that. I think she's been active since the 70s in town. And there's nobody who's who's done more to promote the arts and the community than Gloria. And this is a very fitting honor for her. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Would anyone else like to speak? Seeing none, can I get a motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close public portion?
Public comment.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Public comment is now closed. At this time, can I get a motion on the resolution? Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Patil, second by Council Vice President Harris. Madam Clerk, roll call, please. Or actually, sorry, council comments first. My apologies.
Council President,
Yes, Councilman Patil.
in fact, when I walked in this town hall, I believe it was sometime around 2014, the very first thing that I recognized was the art exhibition on the second floor. And this was kind of unusual in the government building. And I said, who is the person behind? And that's where I met Gloria. So your impact of spreading the art and culture across the town is recognized. It should have been recognized long back, but today is a big day. Finally, it is happening. And I always say that it's better to be late than never. So thank you for your wonderful service to this town. And I know there are quite a few young artists, who experience your leadership. This was not restricted to a certain section, not just a community, but not even about an art. It expanded much beyond that. You can see as soon as you enter, that's your work under your leadership. That's also, again, it's surprising. Typical government building is concrete, plaster, color different, but here Edison is welcoming. If you go in Papiani Park, again, there is your footprint. You have the monument there. Again, that's a wonderful job. So in many places you are touched, whether it's a VFW, whether it is town hall, whether it's an exhibit art center, and through many, many years you have done that successfully. I think I was fortunate enough to even speak during a couple of events. They used to happen, I don't know why they stopped now, but it used to happen on the second floor. And this council was invited to, before just the council meeting, to be there, to look at the art and recognize the youths. Again, thank you for your hard work, your contribution, your dedication, and commitment to serve this community. Thank you. Well deserved.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Freeman.
If you go around to the veterans buildings also, you'll witness the great work of Gloria Dittman. And she introduced me to different artists. Like, I'm very fond of certain artists, and she just does it with a whole lot of class, and she keeps this town looking like a great town. She puts her whole self into it, and she really involves herself in the stuff that she does. I think for that alone, we should applaud her. And for, like my colleague said, on the third floor and sometimes on the second floor, such beautiful artwork, and it's all coordinated, if you know what I mean by it being coordinated. It's not something thrown here and thrown there. She coordinates it all so beautifully. And for that, I thank her for doing the things that she does for this town. Thank you so much, Gloria.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Patel.
So the first time I met Gloria was at her house, and her house is full of great art, and she definitely has an eye for art. And I'm thankful that she uses that eye for Edison, and we should recognize her for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. Any other comments? Councilman Brusher?
Yes, I'd like to echo my council colleague, Councilman Patil. It was very similar. When I first came into the building, I seen the art, and I asked about it at one point, and they told me it was Gloria Dittman. I never met Gloria. It took me probably an additional 8 years before I finally actually got to meet her. But it was very much appreciative that we had someone that was actually looking to do this and showcase this. It just lifts up your spirits a little bit when you do see it. Some, like everything, right? Some I like better than others, but that's the whole point of it. So I thank you for your service. It's a wonderful thing you've done, and it's nice that we're recognizing you. I really am happy about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments?
Council President.
Yes, Councilman Coyle.
I just want to thank you, Gloria, for all the work you do. I think I've known you for just a few months, just kidding, a few years or so. I don't think everybody understands how much time is put into an event and put into gathering the artists and hanging the pictures up and the days to come out to do that. A lot of work, a lot of effort and coordination. That's what I see when I go past it. I love the work, but I say, oh my God, this was a lot of time just to coordinate this. So thank you for that, and the people who sacrifice their time to put this together, and all the different corporations that support you, and residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Coyle. And for myself, I just want to say thank you because most people may automatically assume art with like just painting or just drawings. But what you have exhibited, like, is so much more vast than just that. I see tile work. I've seen wire, music with the arts on Amboy with the piano initiative, which I wish I could play the piano as beautifully as they were painted. Definitely not apples to apples. So I want to say thank you that it's not just one specific type of art that you tried to demonstrate. You tried to broaden the strokes, so to say, the paintbrush strokes, so to say, with all that's out there. So with that, as my other colleagues have mentioned, thank you for all of your efforts throughout the decades here in the township. And at this time, I'll move it to a roll call, and I know Council Vice President will offer additional comments. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Pressure.
Yes.
Councilmember Coyle.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Patel.
Yes.
Councilmember Patil.
Big yes.
Councilmember Ship Freeman.
Yes.
Council President Pointer.
Yes. At this time, I'd like to offer Council Vice President to come up to present the recognition.
Up here. My friend Gloria, look at this fan club that you have here. That's really terrific. That says so much about you and how you are revered in this town for all you have done in the arts. And my introduction to Gloria was early in my term when Gloria, I think we had lunch, it was you and Council President Pointer and I had lunch together. You talked about some of the things that you were interested in and working together. You had me at hello on that. And then shortly after that, Gloria took me on a tour of all the murals in town, of which I had been unaware. Took me to the gazebo, which was at that point close to completion, not quite there yet, but the gazebo, which has been a wonderful addition to Papiani Park. And of course, there are the painted pianos, there are the salutes to the veterans, and so much. And then, of course, the exhibitions on the third floor that have been monthly or have they been bi-monthly?
About 5 weeks.
Okay.
5 weeks.
Okay. And we have a couple of the artists here, as a matter of fact, I believe. Yes. So it is both my honor, it is my pleasure to present you with this well-deserved certificate of recognition. And yours are going to be very tough shoes to fill, and I think that's why we've had such a hard time filling them, because they're such difficult shoes to fill. But I hope that someone will step forward and continue with the Edison Arts Society, because it is such an important link in the chain of what makes this town great. So please, please, let's make sure that the Edison Arts Society continues. We on the Cultural Arts Committee, hopefully soon to be Cultural Arts Commission, would welcome that and would look forward to working together with whoever comes forward for the Edison Arts Society. So again, Gloria, thank you for all you've done. Don't be a stranger. We love you. Okay.
She's going to say a few words.
I thought this was about me.
She could have done it without the microphone.
I cannot thank you so very much, Margot. This means so much to me, and it is so humbling, really. It's been great to be the leader of the Edison Art Society. But I also want to thank John Pointer. I think you bring so much class to the council, and I thank you for that. It makes Edison look better and better every time. So thank you. And thank everyone else for all your wonderful comments. I love Edison. That's why I work so hard for Edison. Joyce and I have known each other for way too many years. Very long time. But it's certainly been a pleasure working with all of you at various times. But I have to tell you how much I love my artists. They have shown so much love and respect for Edison Township, and you could see it in their work. There's so much dedication to make Edison a better place to live, work, and play. And I don't think it can get better than that. So thank you very much. I wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and a peaceful 2024. I have to give one more shout out to my buddy, Mike. Thank you so much. He has photographed the art exhibits and every other thing for us, and we can't thank you enough, so thank you. And thank everyone else. Good night. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open up for oral petitions and remarks, starting from the list. Mr. Stolschel.
Walt Stoschel, 2118 Oak Tree Road.
Thank you.
First off, I'd like to commend the Cultural Arts Committee for doing the display down in the lower lobby with the Historical Society. I don't know if you all, I'm sure you all have been down there, but it's really a real professionally looking area. It's well done, and I'm really pleased that the display case with the Dismal Swamp artifacts that Peter Barnes got for the town has been cleaned up and professional. It looks professional now. I really appreciate that. I've got some more documents for the council tonight. On November 1st, 2022, Middlesex County had a press conference at Middlesex College, announced the completion of what they called the Community Innovation Strategic Opportunity Strategic Investment Plan, also known as the CIO plan. They said they had finalized the plan. It was data-driven. It would turn Middlesex College into a destination with a 5,000-seat stadium on Woodbridge Avenue, a sports bar, and a destination athletic complex that would destroy Edison Park. But there is no record of the commissioners adopting a CIO plan before November 1st, 2022. And yet, more than a year later, the county still has not made public the CIO plan after numerous Oprah requests and residents' requests at the commissioners' meeting on November 13th. All that is available is a 43-page executive summary with renderings and stock photos, which they are now calling a draft. Funny, we were told last year it was finalized. The county has been using the executive summary to apply for state funds, referenced the CIO plan and permit application, and said they submitted it to the National Park Service as part of the required environmental screening form, yet it was not attached. At the Green Acres change in use hearing in March and at the wetlands permit application, licensed professionals said that the destination athletic complex was part of the CIO plan, but the public was not given access to the plan to comment on. Residents had to find out details of the plan from using public records requests from other agencies. The county applied to the Department of Community Affairs for $8.5 million for the destination athletic complex, which they now estimate will cost $75 million. The DCA, the objective in the DCA application is that the destination complex will generate revenue for the county. So this is all about monetizing our parks. Yet the federal deed restriction in Green Acres require reasonable fees that remain in the park. The DCA application also says it's a part of the CIO plan, and the executive summary is attached. The county also applied to the Department of Health for $952,000 for facilities in a building that will have the sports bar and student center. The application says the kitchen will have an ability to make 10,000 meals a day and be run by a third party. That's strange for a place that the enrollment's only 7,000 commuter students. It's clear the kitchen is mostly for the sports bar and the 5,000-seat stadium next door and the concessions in Edison Park. The county also applied for a $10 million road to connect Mill Road to Raritan Center Parkway through Edison Park. This will bring more traffic into Edison Park, but the application says nothing about the destination athletic complex in the park. In April, AECom produced a traffic study report, which was required by the state for the change in use and wetlands permit application. It's clear that no one from the county reviewed this report and requested any corrections. On page 1 of the study, it refers to Middlesex Community College 5 times. The college is now Middlesex College, and it was Middlesex County College before that. And this error is continued 6 more times in the document. The traffic was done on February 28th, 2023, which is not the busiest time of year for college traffic because by February, students drop out or transfer. The study does say that the new 1,000-car parking lot that will be built north of Outlowski Drive on campus and Outlowski Drive will get a new 4-way intersection with a traffic light. But the entrance to Edison Park with the new 1,300-space parking lot will not get a traffic light because the report says, as consistent with the existing operation, it is assumed that on the event days, traffic will be managed by the local police. They also did a traffic count at Edison Park, and only 2 cars entered and exit on the 28th, but that's because the park has been closed since December. The study also says nothing about a $10 million road through Edison Park to Raritan Center and what the traffic impact will be at that intersection. I have copies of all these documents.
Speaker has 1 minute.
I have copies for all these documents for the council to review. And once again, I asked the township to request a copy of the CIO plan and have the township planner review it so we know what the effect will be on this township. If this was a private development on private land, there would be public hearings, public comment, and review by our planner. Now, it's the holiday season, and I'm feeling charitable. So to any county employee that can give me a copy of the full CIO plan, I will give you a Walmart gift card. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next on the list, Mr. Basso.
Joel Bassoff, 17 Beach Lane.
Thank you.
I'd like to address the public advocate ordinance that's on the agenda for final vote on Wednesday. First, I want to put it on the record that I've sent each member of the council a sampling of New Jersey court decisions that make it clear that even if a zoning board or a planning board deny an application including variances, if objectors to those variances do not put the testimony of expert witnesses on the record, the court will send that case back and order that the variances be granted. So to think that if the zoning board or the planning board just deny applications, that we're free of unwanted noxious development, well, that's simply wrong. That's not the law in this state. So I've spoken a number of times explaining the reason why Edison needs a public advocate, why the residents would benefit from that. But I'd like to get some input from the members of the council. Hopefully the ordinance will receive a unanimous vote on Wednesday in favor, but just in case there's anyone that still inclines not to vote for it, I'd like, on behalf of the public, to get some explanation. So first, let me lay out a scenario, and I'm calling it a scenario, not a hypothetical, because this is something that has happened numerous times in Edison and will continue to happen. So the scenario is this: a neighbor comes to your door and says to you that a developer is going to put up a digital billboard and it's going to shine in our windows. So I want you to put in $250 toward hiring a land use lawyer and hiring expert witnesses to stop this. I'm putting in money too, and then I want you to go around to neighbors and help me raise $5,000 to stop this project that will ruin our property values, that'll keep us up at night with this light shining on our window. So my question to the council is that when you're faced with that scenario, and I say scenario, not a hypothetical, when you're faced with that scenario, I'd like you to complete this sentence. I'm glad that Edison does not have a public advocate because, and I'm just wondering how you would conclude that sentence if you're not inclined to vote for the ordinance. And by the way, let me just say that if your answer is, well, I think we should have a public advocate, but I just don't like this particular ordinance, well, there's a parliamentary procedure that can rectify that. It's called an amendment. If you think that the language needs some tweaking, you can always propose an amendment. If your answer is along the lines of, well, that would never happen to me, not where I live, well, it's reprehensible that you'd be so selfish, but I'd have to admire your candor in admitting that. If your answer is, well, the mayor is against it, then I'd have to deplore your lack of independence. But again, I'd admire your candor. So anyway, the scenario is this. You've been asked to help raise $5,000 to stop the digital billboard from shining in your window. So answer this or complete this sentence. I'm glad that Edison does not have a public advocate because. And I'll leave it at that for anyone who wants to comment.
Thank you. I have afforded the opportunity to address questions. I will allow for that opportunity as I've done in the past. I will say I will not address those questions here and now. I will save my comments for Wednesday. Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the questions that were posed?
I just have to say that I couldn't finish that sentence without a public advocate. So I believe one's needed.
Thank you. Any other comments from council pertaining? Any additional comments on your end?
No, that's it.
Thank you. We are off the list. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes.
Anthony Diamond, 25 Wiley. Council President, I just happened to notice on the agenda for the planning board, and the name, I don't know the individual, but it sounded familiar, and I realized that this individual, way back, I don't know, I guess it was July, ran for the Board of Education, was one of 7 candidates originally. There were 7 candidates, and ended up dropping out. The mayor then ended up endorsing 3 candidates, a slate, and now a month after the election, this individual, the same individual that dropped out, is being recommended for the planning board. Are we not supposed to be skeptical about this? I mean, is it? Do we have standing that, at least, to question the timing at the very best of this individual? And again, I don't know this. It's not personal, but what about his background? Does this individual have any real estate background, or is in real estate? That's a problem, and this type of stuff needs to end. It really does. We're not stupid. So, some of us we weren't born yesterday. So for the mayor to put somebody out that, let's be honest, this deal could have been cut back in August when that individual dropped out. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but to be skeptical would be, I think, at the very least, a very reasonable thing to do, to ask these type of questions. So going forward, I only have one. I'm not expecting anything major. He'll get approved and we go on. But going forward, any individual that's going to be appointed to the planning board, in my opinion, I don't know what you have to do, change the rules, pass a resolution. should sit up here in front of this council and be questioned by this council. And you guys could, as it is right now, you guys will have a discussion, I guess, whether it's today or Wednesday, about the individual or any individual that's going to the planning board. But what's going on in this town, considering what's going on, what we have, whether it's Silver Lake, Charlie Brown, we all know what the issues are. We need to know who these people are because there's no other recourse. They're not elected. So if this person ends up being, let's just say, not a great candidate at the end of the day, then we're stuck. And at least we could go through our elected officials to have them ask the questions, the proper questions, let them sit in the hot seat. That's not asking a lot for a half hour to be peppered with some questions. And then you guys make a decision. That's what I would do at least, because this type of stuff is, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it's sad. It really is sad, and I hope this council raises some questions, whether it's today or Wednesday or going forward. But that's what I would do. I would have these candidates sit up here, however long it takes, and before you guys make a decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Would anyone like to make mention or to address any of the questions? Yes, Councilwoman Schiff-Friedman.
I would like to find out, do you have to have any type of criteria? I know the planning board is the mayor's, and the zoning board is the council's. So my computer was off, so I didn't really even get to see a resume, even though I know what I like to see resumes. Sometimes I like to see college degrees. Sometimes that just, excites me. But I, would like to know what is the exact criteria that you would have to be examined by the planning board? And number two, do you have to go to classes once you sit on the planning board? Yeah. No, I want to answer for the public. I already know I want to answer for the public. Yeah.
You are correct in that it's a mayoral appointment. In terms of credentials to be appointed, that's at the mayor's discretion, but you are 100% accurate that after appointment, you are required to take, I forget if it's 1 or 2 state courses that go over municipal land use law. I think Councilman Patel might be able to address that a little bit better.
Yes, so you have to take a course within a certain time frame once you get on the board. And in terms of his education, since you didn't get a chance to read, he graduated from IIT, which is like the MIT of India, back in 1990s, and right now he's working as a data manager.
Back where did he get his degree from?
IIT in Delhi. It's equivalent to MIT in the global standing, right, Ajay? Yeah. So it's about the same level as MIT.
So, does he have a background in development and all
from
that?
what I read, he has a background in data management and architecture. And sorry, I don't want to go.
Just as
Okay.
a point of clarification,
No,
to address
it was
the
good.
question, but
Thank
yeah.
you. So the person, well, they're still here. That's what I wanted them to have a good explanation for it, so when they come up again, they'll know exactly how it's done.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address any of the questions that were posed?
Oh, wait to that point.
It's public comment, so I've offered if any questions.
Council President, I just disagree with the statements of Mr. Diamond, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, but it's going to come up,
Okay.
and I'll
If
ask
that,
at that
okay,
point.
I appreciate it. We are off the list. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes.
Lois Torr, 52 Reeder Road, Edison, New
Thank you.
Jersey. I just would like, I know Margot is probably going to give, or Rich is probably going to give a report on the animal shelter, but I'd like to know if included in that report is the information as to whether or not the person in charge of the animal shelter during the horrendous conditions that were reported earlier is still in charge.
Yes, she is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak? Seeing none, can I get a motion to close the oral petitions and remarks?
Motion to close?
Second.
Motion by Council Vice President Harris, second by Councilman Patel. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Oral petition and remarks is now closed. Move on to review of minutes. A, closed session of November 13th, 2023, and B, closed session of November 27th, 2023. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
Council President?
Yes,
You
Councilwoman
have to
Shapiro.
split that in half. I wasn't here on the 13th.
Okay, so on that one, then, when
Missed
it
that
comes up
meeting.
for the vote, you would abstain from that
Okay,
particular
so
one.
that's why I can't even speak on it.
And likewise for Council Vice President Harris on the 27th.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none? 7, administrative agenda from Mayor Sam Joshi.
Council President?
Yes,
I had a question on 6.
that's what I'm getting into right now.
Oh, okay. I thought you said 7. That's good.
Resolution of recognition, I bumped all the numbers down, so.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. So next would be the administrative agenda from Mayor Sam Joshi. A, appointment of Manohar Gosher, apologies if I mispronounce, as a member of the planning board. And B, appointment of Anthony Massaro and Varsha Nayak to the Cultural Arts Committee. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councilman Brescher?
Yes. I have a question. At the beginning of the year, we did appointments, I think, for planning and zoning. And now we have this one at the end of the year. Don't we normally do them the beginning of the following year with the incoming council president, and being that we have an incoming council? And
My understanding is that one of the planning board members is moving out, so they wouldn't be a resident of the township and there would be a vacancy. That's my understanding, but if I can ask our business administrator to follow up on that.
right, I mean, it was just a question of why would we do it now? Why wouldn't we just wait till January, like we did in the past? That's all.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
I didn't know so much when he was telling me about the school board and about if you drop out, then I'll give you something else. I didn't get that whole program, but I'm glad that you guys explained it to me better, how that goes. Because yes, like he's correct, we usually do it in January. It's usually the planning board and the zoning boards and everything when the new council comes in.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none. 8, reports from all council committees. I'll start from my right, Councilman Brescher.
I'm going to pass this along to my council colleague to update us on the animal shelter. But I'd just like to comment and say I think the meeting went well. I don't know at the end of the day that it's going to end up well, but our intentions are that it will. And it was informative, but I think we need more information. And I'll let my council colleague finish that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Brescher. Councilman Coyle.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to report for public safety. I did an anonymous drop-in on the EMS building, which I do about 4 times a year. For those who are listening who don't know, we have a private EMS service, which is your basic life support, and our advanced life support, which is in a warehouse district that's dispatched with 911, and they do a phenomenal job servicing the township of Edison. I had a chance to stop by, and I always check to see how much staff they have and how many ambulances are on the road in the area. And I was happy to report 8 staff members were at the location sitting diligently at their workstation, and 1 nurse is there as well, aside from the supervisor also present. But what's interesting to see is that the predictive data over the last 5 years or so they've been doing this has come and built on, where ambulances are throughout the town. In fact, there were 4 BLS ambulances and 2 advanced life support, which is our paramedic vehicles. So throughout the town, there were 2 in the north end, 2 in the south end, spread out according to the predictive data of where the next incident can happen. And this is over time, they understand where the next heart attack can be or the next accident can be on the highway. For instance, there'll be more ambulances surrounding the highway districts in rush hour and in rush hour in the evening. And then there'll be less people in the warehouse districts at night where less things will be happening. More people in the elderly communities where there's a likely opportunity for a heart attack for a senior citizen. So the path of geographic choice of where an ambulance is when you see one parked is there for a reason. So I'm proud to say we are in good hands, and I think they do a phenomenal job with that. So again, this is a drop-in. I do not give notice I'm coming. I stop by at 12:30 a.m. on Friday morning. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Coyle, and for the update there. Council Vice President Harris.
Yes. Library Board and Cultural Arts Committee will be meeting tomorrow, so I'll have to report on that at the later December meeting. Animal shelter. So yes, Councilman Brescher and I, we went together actually in Councilman Brescher's hybrid of Mustang and jalopy. It was actually I thought it was a very productive meeting. I think it was a reset of sorts from where things had been in November. Present at that meeting, aside from Councilman Brescher and myself, were Ross Lecitra, his second in command, Barbara Lovell, Dr. Nicole Feddersen, who's now going to be who now is the veterinarian to the shelter here, and the manager, Tina Pasikinski. We discussed the structural problems, of which there are many, with the actual building here. And we would be looking to do an RFQ for an architect. We need expansion. We need a construction manager. We need expansion, renovation. Would probably cost somewhere in the area of $2.5 to $3 million. The shared services agreement, I believe. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, Councilman, but Piscataway, that one is going away. Is that the beginning of the year? That one is going to be disappearing, that shared service?
That's what was recommended, but we'd need the input from the administration.
Okay. That can be confirmed.
Okay, all right. So that will leave us with 4 other shelters that we have shared services with. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So eventually, sooner than later, we hope, until we can get our own house in order, we need to shed the shared services with the other municipalities. We just can't bring in any more animals. Budget for the shelter. I had asked the business administrator earlier today, and she provided me with some information about this. So there had not been, I want to make sure I get this right, there had not been a budget. I'd asked you for 2022, 2023. There had not been a budget per se. It had been, you said, out of a trust, did you say?
Correct. All of the expenses were charged to a trust account, so any sort of donations that were made to the animal shelter would come out of there. As I explained in my email to you, that's not a good way to for the day-to-day operations. So in 2024, we've already established that in the appropriations budget, we will have that, all of the costs that are associated with the day-to-day operations, it will now be part of our budget. So you will see that come next year.
Okay, that's excellent. We desperately need a line item budget. One of the things that is missing, and Tina alluded to this, and Dr. Feddersen alluded to this, they have been asking for a locked cabinet for medications and have been waiting, and I don't remember what, they said they're using a file cabinet right now?
Right,
a
I
locked
think
file
they need
cabinet?
a legitimate cabinet.
Yeah, and do you have any idea what might be holding that up, that very important item?
I'm not sure, but we'll certainly take care of that right away.
Okay, yeah, it's really vital. Dr. Feddersen, by the way, is an expert not only in her veterinary work, but in operational services as well. So that also brings a lot to the table. The employees at the shelter who right now make $35,000 a year, they are overextended. They are just completely overextended. Now, it's not a fair comparison with the Monmouth shelter, which is it's a very impressive facility. We're talking about 20,000 square feet, right?
Their building's like 20,000 square feet down there. So if you put that into perspective, it's immense.
It is, and they have every room and service that you could possibly want. Now, obviously, that's serving the entire county. We are talking about this municipality, hopefully just this municipality within a short period of time. But I think we said the current facility is less than 2,000 square feet here. So they also, their funding sources, they have on-site, they have a thrift store. All the proceeds from the thrift store go to the shelter, and the thrift store is an extremely successful enterprise. They had a jewelry sale, and the jewelry came from, a lot of the stuff came from the thrift store. They had a jewelry sale over the weekend to bring in more funds. So while we can't look to completely replicate what the MSPCA has, we can certainly use them as a model on a smaller scale. So going forward, we look to have meetings on a once-a-month basis. I will be trying to round up the troops and see what we can do to get these monthly meetings going. But I'm optimistic that we are on the same page and that we are going to be headed in a very positive direction. While I'm on the subject, I just want to also point out a couple of events that are coming up for the Edison shelter, and that is this coming Sunday, December 17th, from 1 to 4. Barks and Brews is going to be taking place. It's an adoption event over at what's it called? Barks and Brews at the South 40 Brewing Company on 110 Newfield Avenue, Suite 2 in Edison. So that's going to be there will be dogs there, and funds will be going toward the shelter. And then on January 13th, which is a Saturday, from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m., there will be an adoption event at Haley's Harp on 400 Main Street in Metuchen. So those are some events that would be nice to attend and to get some buzz going for the animals that need adoption. And there's still really some lovely animals that are still in the shelter that would be great pets and great family members. And so that is a report. Obviously, I don't have a date yet for the next meeting. That will be sometime in January. That should be coming soon. And so with that, I conclude my report. And now I go to Councilman Patel.
So this is for the open space that met on December 7th, 7 p.m. at this council chambers. The things discussed were open space and trails on Woodland Ave, the Ferrante Shea Stevens Petty property, as well as the Tingley Lane. There was a property on sale at 204 Tyler Road, which I believe we emailed the administration to take and see if they're interested in purchasing it. It's around $300,000 for about a little less than an acre. We also discussed trails on Glendale Ave and Silver Lake. As of March, the trust fund is around $1.7 million. And in terms of the Edison Bicycle Initiative, we discussed the Safe Route to School application, the Inman Ave, Tingley, Grove, and Calvert, as well as the development of Route 1 Power Trail. That is something being worked on by the engineering. He is going around as to what PSCNG will allow us to build which trail, and engineering department wants to make sure that none of the trails are orphaned, where they just end up middle of nowhere, essentially making a circle so that anyone gets on a trail can make their way back home. Also in discussion was JCPL trail, which is the one right by Papiani Park, the power line that goes on Papiani Park to Edison High. That company seems very interested in developing a trail and I think that'll be lovely because that will allow all the high school kids to ride very safely to school. We also discussed developing a bike plan, sidewalk plan, trail plan with the Edison Master Plan. That is something we will discuss once Edison Master Plan is adopted. There was an idea of a scooter race strategy. I think the Open Space did email the campus coordinator or the campus developer. I forgot his name is missing his name, but essentially connecting Rutgers Livingston campus to Edison train station that will allow students from Rutgers to ride bikes or scooters to Edison train station and use Edison train station. The other projects that were discussed was already what Walter discussed recently about the Edison Park changes. And that will be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. Councilman Patil.
Thank you, Council President. Just want to extend a few things from what Council Vice President mentioned. The shared services agreement. I know the Piscataway is coming up, but can we find out, at least get the dates of all of them? But at the same time, we also have to notify those towns that the shared services will not be renewed. So they can, ahead of a time, they can find an alternate way. We can't put them on a spot, say we stop. Yes, our house is not in good order, but we need to probably play in a nice way, saying, hey, we won't be able to accommodate. That's the number one. Number two is we kind of briefly discuss, we need to come up with 30-day, 60-day, 90-day plan. Yes, we can meet, we can talk, but as an immediate action item, as you say, we need medicine cabinet. There could be several line items that probably Tina and her department might be looking for. And I need to bring that transparency with the animal shelter and the administration through the committee to make sure that what the immediate needs are for the animal shelter are fulfilled. If that means, we need to pass some emergency resolution, so it be. But, we need to put our best effort to restore the health and well-being of the animals in our animal shelter. That's it, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patil. To our business administrator, do you know when the shared service agreement's coming up?
Sure. So Piscataway is up at the end of this year. There is a 60-day clause, if I'm not mistaken, in the shared services. Next year, Highland was actually renewed last year. So that would leave Denellen and Metuchen, and those expire next year. There's been no discussion with regard to any discontinuing of those two. Right now, we'd address the Piscataway, which was a huge burden to the township in terms of the intake. That was about a third of our issues, and the overcrowding, quite frankly. So was more of the immediate shared services agreement that we discontinued. I did call the business administrator, had a discussion with regard to the not continuing of the services.
Thank you for the clarification. Councilwoman Schiff-Freeman.
On the Housing Authority, and they're moving right along. They're making connection with Highland Park. So with that, and they've completed their basketball and tennis courts, and so they hopefully in the spring it'll be repainted, and they will be able to give out tennis lessons, and they'll be able to play basketball during the course of the summer. But we're still waiting on the county or the mayor, wherever, to sign off on the RAD program. Everybody seems to drag in their feet, and that happens to be very, very important that we upgrade the community that's falling apart. You know what I mean? I would hate, because I keep looking at these shows on TV where these buildings are falling down, and I'm hoping that we don't allow that to happen to North Edison. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Schiff-Freeman. And for myself, for the deer population subcommittee, myself, Deputy Chief Dudash, who is here tonight, Sergeant Semino, and several members from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. We went around to a couple of locations throughout the township just to see from a visual standpoint if any deer population program were to be instituted, like what that would actually look like out and about in the open space. I thought it was a very productive meeting, a lot of good information. So the next action steps on our end is to reconvene with the committee. We have information on the local municipality level, the county level, and the state level now. And I think we can look into our next action steps. And the Smart City Advisory Committee, we are looking to meet in January. Outside of that, no additional comments on my end. Any other committee reports that may have been missed? Seeing none, we'll move on to points of light. Any points of light that like to be mentioned? Councilman Patel?
I just want to say thank you, DPW. You guys did amazing with the Winter Wonderland, especially the fake snow. It really fulfilled the snow in me, because I will always look for snow when I look for Christmas feeling, spirit. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. Councilwoman Schiff-Freeman.
Council President, while we're discussing that about the beautiful thing we had on Saturday, the Winter Wonderland, a couple of parents and stuff asked me, could our town cut those lights back on like during the week because they want to like bring their kids to take pictures and stuff since we have the lighting there already? You think that's okay?
To our business administrator, I'm not sure if that's something that may be feasible.
It is gone now because it was a contractual, it was a contract that we had with the vendor. But we can certainly look into it to keep it for next year once we put the RFP out as a continuation of the holiday celebration. So we can certainly do that for next year if there's an appetite for that.
Thank you. A lot of money for one day, sir. A lot of money.
Thank you. Any other points of light?
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Coyle.
First, I want to thank the DPW and the entire team for all the great work that was put together for the celebration for the holiday. I've gotten about 7 phone calls, and on site, about 4 or 5 people walked up to me and how happy they were with this, holiday celebration and Christmas tree lighting. I mean, it was quite phenomenal. I think we probably had close to 10,000 people there. Yes, this costs money, and we certainly have to redirect how we spend our money each time, but we're certainly off to a good start. This was a really, really good spot to hold it. I'm, of course, jealous it's not on Amboy Avenue in the Clara Barton section, but it wouldn't fit in Clara Barton. And I'm happy with the small lighting on Clara Barton is fine, but it was phenomenal. And my grandkids went. I couldn't even find them, but they were there with my son, and it was a really good time. So thank you to our DPW director and the team. And I just have to shout out each DPW worker volunteered that night for the truck train parade. So I thought that was really nice of them to spend their time and volunteer. I know it's going to be contagious. More people are going to volunteer the entire night and save us all that money it costs to run the event. That's what I think. So he's off to a good start, spreading good opportunities. Okay, and that's all I have on that. And I just wanted to also congratulate our newly council-elect Asaf Shmuel is here in the back there with his full head of hair. I'm a little jealous of, but a wonderful guy, and I'm looking forward to you to serve on the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Coyle. Any other points of light? Yes, Councilman Patel.
Sonia, I also wanted to ask, can we have more lights on Amboy Ave that we can have throughout the holiday seasons? Because it'd be nice to have some holiday spirit throughout the town.
Thank you. For myself, I just want to wish everyone who is celebrating a happy Hanukkah. I believe it's the 3rd day right now. Oh. 5th day. Apologies. The days fly by, so apologies on that, but sentiment still remains. Happy Hanukkah. With that being said, on Wednesday at 7 p.m. At the JCC on Oak Tree Road is the lighting of the menorah with the JCC and Edison Township. And as was previously mentioned, the Winter Wonderland event I thought was a great success. Obviously, you're going to have a little bit of hiccups because last year was multiple days. This was one single day. So you're going to have some procedural items, but I think everything turned out extremely wonderful. The lights were great. The light parade was well received, very well liked from everything that I've heard. And I look forward to continuing this event next year. Thank you. Any other final points of light? Seeing none, move on to the review of the agenda. Number 9 on our agenda, number 10 elsewhere. A, ordinance establishing not to exceed salaries of certain officers, department heads, and employees of the township. B, resolution awarding contracts for printing services, 8 vendors not to exceed $151,110. C, resolution awarding contracts for sports uniforms and clothing, 2 vendors not to exceed $78,414. D, resolution awarding renewal contract for Edmunds software maintenance for 2024, $66,364. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
I'm a little concerned about A.
Yes, Councilwoman Schiff-Freeman.
Because even when I heard Council Vice President Margot Harris said 35,000, I'm telling you, when you pay people such a low amount of money, that means I have to pay into the Section 8. I have to pay into the SNAP program. So that's why I have an issue that is top heavy. And it makes me think of that. We're like going into the mode of Washington, D.C. Like all those people making tons of money, but they won't get past 725 for the workers throughout the country. So I just have issues when you're like so far above. And I also like to see credentials too. I mean, I'm sorry, I come from the educational world. I can't get to second base in my profession if I don't have paperwork or some certifications that take me to the next level. I can't get a raise, in the field I've been in all my life. So I just get disappointed that we treat the least the worst, okay? The people at the bottom, this bothers me tremendously that we're so above them that, I mean, come on, be for real, $35,000? That's a salary? Whew.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And before proceeding, I just want to make note, there was supposed to be a modification sent out. I apologize, I forgot to mention it. The construction code official line item is being removed from the salary. To our business administrator, if you can advise on that, and if you'd like to make a comment on the salaries itself.
Sure, just for clarification purposes, these are addressing directors. So the construction official position itself is not a director position. Rather, it's a mayoral appointment. With regard to the salaries, I assume Councilwoman Ship Freeman is addressing any AFSCME employees, which is a contractual union contract negotiated item. I will say that this administration went into negotiations realizing in terms of those salaries, and the minimum salary went from $27,000 to $35,000 a year. So we did try to adjust as much as we can. But this is not related to the union contracts, which is a completely separate line item.
Yes, I was a union president before, so I kind of know the union stuff. And I kind of know that to be a livable wage, because within New Jersey, geez, you can make, at McDonald's now, you get $19 an hour. You know what I mean? So telling me, oh, we've taken them from 27 to 35, whoop-de-doo. 27 to 35? 35, you're still in poverty at all. So I don't, this great big thing, but guess what? We'll put them at poverty, but I want $250,000 just to do what I do, okay? It doesn't add up to me. It just doesn't add up right. And I know about unions, so nobody don't have to tell me about unions. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other? Yes, Councilman Brescher.
Yes, with this, there's some places that we don't have positions filled. That's correct, right?
The Director of Planning and Engineering and the Director of Finance are the two. We have two professional consulting firms that
Are doing
the work, yes.
So why would we increase that?
The intent is to align with the other director positions. It is the intent of this administration to hire at some point a Director of Finance and a Director of Planning and Engineering.
Okay. So someday we're going to hire someone, and that's why we want to raise it. We didn't receive a list of comps from the 10 biggest towns. I mean, I did receive some documentation. The supporting documentation that I looked at didn't justify these numbers, quite frankly. So is there a way that we can get like the 10 biggest towns so that and let me just explain, just to put it simply, if we took the top one, Director of Health and Human Services, 110 to 175, and you showed me that, in the state of New Jersey, their top 10 towns, 3, 4 are at 195, right? You have now justified this, because what you're doing here is you're kind of aligning everybody like they're all the same, but the positions are different, and I noticed that they're different throughout the state. So we should receive comps. That's number one. Number two, typically, wouldn't you show us some kind of evaluations? And when I say evaluations, because obviously this is to give a raise, right? So we'd want to know that the people are doing a fair job, at least in your mind, and what you don't find is a fair job, and what kind of an action plan they have to fix that overall. So those are, two things. I don't agree also with setting salary ranges. I believe that, as in any organization, if you want to have someone and you want them to give them a raise, they should have a raise. And my problem with that was I was what I considered BS'd. The last time I looked at this document, I was told that it was a salary range. And then what I came to find out was, don't worry, we're not going to go to the top of the range. This just allows us to get there. But then we did go to the top of the range, right? And council was never notified. So where I'm going with this is I think we should receive whatever it is, and council should approve it. And next year, if you have another raise, it should come to council, and council should approve it. But I would like to see the 10 biggest towns, because like I said, it didn't substantiate what I received today. There would be no council person that would actually want to vote on this, to be quite honest with you, if you looked at the comps. So, yeah, if we can maybe get that over the next, day or 2 days before Wednesday.
So in terms of the, if I may?
Yes.
In terms of the comps, I sent the information that I was able to get. I can certainly, if that has not, council president hasn't been shared with the rest of the council, I can certainly do that. I'll tell you, it's often difficult to get this information without probably prompting an Oprah request from some of these towns, but I did think that the comps, these were comparable in terms of if you were looking at the size and position. But if you wanted more specific information, I can certainly look into that. I'm not sure that that would be then, again, in terms of the valuations, these are supervised positions between myself and the mayor. The attorney may correct me if I'm wrong. Those evaluations are at the purview of the mayor and myself. I don't know if the council would necessarily evaluate the department heads.
No, I'm not saying the council will evaluate them.
I wasn't sure. I was asking the question just a point of clarification.
Right. I was just looking for your input to see how you feel about, the employees that you're proposing for a raise. Good and bad, Yeah, and I'd like to see the comps, because I'd like to see that the comps justify what's on here. Okay, not that there's one person that is at this, but there are 15 other towns that are $25,000 less, because to me that doesn't justify what we're looking at, and I'd like to justify it. And if I don't get it, then I can only go with the information I have, in which case at Wednesday's meeting I'll go through each one and list the towns and the whole thing. It'll just take us quite some time. So I wish we can get it so we can just move this quickly along. Thank you.
Council President?
Councilman Brusher, just before, is there any additional information that we should be looking, or that we can possibly get from the administration that would assist in verifying what the range proposals are?
So far, the towns, I'm not sure if you shared the information that I sent late last night with regard to some Middlesex County towns.
If it's possible, can I just, and sorry to interrupt,
Sure.
can I just ask you to send that out to everyone?
Of
just in
course,
case
I will do that. There was population size, and then there was positions. So I aligned them as best as I could. So if we were looking at population size of the township, I believe they were pretty comparable. So, but if there was some more information, it was, so the top, I would say the top 10 towns, some of them were a little difficult to get to. Again, it's like going on their websites and going on public websites to try to decipher an Egyptian code, for the lack of a better metaphor. So, but I can certainly try to get as much as I could before Wednesday again.
Right, there's some that we didn't have anything on, like prosecutors and judge. And that should be something we should be able to get from some of the towns anyway.
I believe the county may have that, so I can try to get what the county's got for you.
Appreciate that. And I know that our deputy clerk was working on our clerk and deputy clerk were getting information from other Middlesex County municipalities. I had gotten that this morning. I was just going through it and trying to make sure. I do understand last week was hectic on the clerk side because of PTO and such, so no issues here, but just to let you know. So I'll try to send that out as soon as possible.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Council
Councilwoman
President?
Councilwoman Schifrin.
Oh, okay.
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 Council Vice President
Thank you.
Harris. Thank you.
Yes, on the same item to the business administrator, how many of these positions are actually making the maximum?
In our current ordinance,
Yes,
there were 3.
3 of them, okay. And how many are making the minimum?
I don't believe anybody's at the minimum. They're fairly mid to top range.
So in the current ordinance, 3 out of the 16 are making the maximum.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilwoman
Yeah, I'd like to
Schifrin.
know, I'm just curious, how many years does it take you to make the maximum? How many years does it take you to maximum? Do you come in on like the maximum? Just
That's a relevant question.
Just curious because we have new administration, so I guess they've been here maybe 2 years, the new administration?
If you could be more specific on
I'm
who
saying
you are
new
referring to.
administration that came in with the new office in, was it 2022? They've only been here 2 years, and I just and they're already at the max?
If we're talking
That's
about
what I'm
individual,
questioning. I'm just questioning that fact, because they can be that way, because, I'm not in charge of money and stuff, but I just, you know what I mean? Because everybody else, you tell me the union, you tell me this, you tell me that, people have to work their way up, and they have to crawl up and everything. But if you come in, and you only been here for like 2 years or whatever, and you're already at the max, I don't know. I just question stuff like that. And furthermore, public information is not hard to find, because if you're getting paid by tax dollars in the state of New Jersey, you can find you. You can find the money back and forth, believe me, because I've looked around. I mean, in my educational background and stuff, we looked around and we seen what people had. I'm just so curious that you could be here for 2 years and be at the max and all that. I don't know. Maybe it's strange to me. Sorry.
Thank you, Councilwoman. In regards to just my own 2 cents on this, I understand the A equals B and B equals C, A equals C type aspect, but the salaries that an individual is making versus what is before us in regards to establishing the range, to me, are 2 separate issues. So I understand possibly trying to combine them into one. I'm not taking that approach in how I'm viewing this resolution/ordinance proposal, and I'll be viewing it from the minimum and maximum range standpoint. Thank you. Councilman Patil.
Council President, I hear you, the intent here is, but, I'm on this council past 8 years, and I have seen this happening several times. Even though intent is to attract the best talent, but that's not what this town does, but that's aside the agenda here. My few questions here, that when we are talking about the low range and high range, fundamentally this document is really absurd and wrong. If you look at mayor is minimum 150. That should have been 47 to 150. That's what our earlier mayor was making. So there was a minimum range and there is a maximum range. Regardless of that, thank you, Vice President, you asked the question, how many employees or how many, not employees, how many titles are above or closer to the range? And the reason this ordinance is not just coming for the establishing these ranges, because some of those are likely to bump this high range, and that's why it is on this dais. So let's be honest and transparent here. My bigger question here is, are we comparing the size, not just the size of the town and the position, but the experience of the person? Just to compare the two mayors, Woodbridge and Edison. Look at the experience, then compare the salary. Look at the quality of the service, the quality of the governance, and the quality of life. This is taxpayers' money. I'm straight answering to Sonia's question that she responded in one of my emails, this is taxpayers' money. Salary is also taxpayers' money. So are we providing these services to this resident? I'm not questioning about one or two people here or one or two titles here. We have the finest police department, we have the finest fire department, we have the finest DPW department. But we have some horrible consulting firm who are also titled here, and this is a classic way of inflating the budget. I don't think this should come now, this should come next year when we are very close to forming the budget. That's the time we should say, hey, let's align, but not aligning for a person, but aligning for the title, so that we have at least 75% to 80% of market range that the employee should be able to hit after getting some experience. And unfortunately, I have to give the experience of our earlier administrator. I don't think I remember on this dais I had to wait a week or months or several months to get an answer. It was like this. Here you go. We're at the cap and we are saying, hey, let's establish the highest range here. Again, Sonia, not personal to you, but I'm just asking is the quality of service, quality of governance, quality of
If
life.
I may interrupt,
the
you're talking
experience.
regarding an individual, and that
I'm
would be
not.
myself, and that would prohibit you from doing that if you didn't notice me, or we didn't go into closed session. So without continuing with talking about an individual evaluation,
I'm not
I
talking
would-
about individual. I said
I would
it
defer to
is
the attorney, so I'd just
this
like to
administrator.
interrupt you regarding an evaluation.
Excuse me, to our legal, because I feel that it is a broad statement. However, I will defer to legal if you think that that may be more of an individual focus.
I didn't get the sense that it was an individual focus listening to it, but
It's up to the someone who wants to listen from their standpoint of view, right?
in that,
But this is the title. Unfortunately, there is one person tied to individual title. I can't do that. Otherwise, that person shouldn't be in the room when we discuss about, none of these people should be in the room when we discuss about this resolution or ordinance. Because we have 1:1. No matter what I say, business administrator, or I would say prior business administrator or current, it ties to the same thing. Yeah,
you're not talking about giving raises to any of these individuals.
understood.
You're not talking about
No.
Yep.
individual evaluations. You're not talking about
Correct.
individual assessments of these hiring practices. That
Mhm.
these,
No.
What this ordinance addresses is what is the range that can be offered to an individual in that position or being hired for that position. Oh, I'm sorry.
Understood.
Sorry, but
And that's you hit on the nail, and that's exactly the questions. My question is the rationale behind putting the salary range ordinance at this point in time. The reason I'm giving the rationale why it cannot wait until the next budget, so that we have the budget there. Thank you,
Which is
Council
fair. I
President.
will, however, though, there's caution you that if you're going to address it in that manner, try to address it in a slightly more general sense, okay?
It is all generic,
I know
again.
that's what you intended, but
Right. But again, somebody wants to listen from their lenses, I can't help with that. But as a councilman, I'm saying that these are positions, they are tied, and I said that, some departments I have absolutely no problem, but some department I do. And that's the reason I'm saying that, this is not the right time to bring it here. At this point in time, let's discuss during the budget session. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you for your comments.
Council President.
Hold on one second. To our business
In
administrator.
terms of the budget, this is actually part of the 2023 budget. So this would be for this year. So next year's a different addressing, if any, with regard to a salary ordinance.
Thank you. Just because I had two other people, can I?
Because she answered my question, so I need to
Yes,
answer that.
Councilman
If
Teal,
this is
please,
2023 budget, we are in the second last meeting of the year of 2023. We are adjusting the funds here, moving the funds here to balance 2023 budget, so we close the year in good faith. And if this is 2023, it has much bigger question, Council President, I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. Councilman Patel?
No, I think
sorry. Councilman Toyle.
Thank you, Council President. I'm listening to my council colleagues, and I understand the discussion, and I disagree, and I'll tell you why. Edison doesn't exactly attract enough candidates to begin with. Working in Edison is we know the fifth largest municipality in the state. It comes with a lot of other issues in hand. And these are at-will employees. So at any given time, the commitment you make to come to Edison and leave the job that you had before, thank you for doing that. Because tomorrow, the township can choose to let you go. A few are contractual, but more are not. So this is an at-will job. The contentious political involvement that a department head has to be involved with, who does not want to be involved in that, but just gets inherited into it by a choice of that not theirs, is worth a fee in itself just to put up with that. It's worth a fee in itself to take a risk to leave a job to come to Edison, knowing it may not work, and you take that risk against your family, your children, your income, a lot of things here, plus the profession you've come from and the experience you bring to the table, plus the fact that discount all that, Edison just doesn't attract the certificate holders of certain jobs, period. We just don't. We haven't in a long time. We served for a DPW director for 4 years. We served for a board of director for 2 years. CFOs, you can't find CFOs, and that's a fact. I mean, ask the CFO Association of Accountants. You can't find. They're just not available. So I think we're at a sweet spot, and this is deserving of its salary. Across 16 departments, $150,000 to $200,000 is not a lot of money to have the talent we have here today, and we're getting things done. To say we're not getting tax value, we're in our second year of a mayor's term, and so much more is happening. So in 24 months, a lot's happened. You can't argue that a lot has not happened. Just look at this council chambers. And someone called me the other day and said, "What happened?" And I thought I was going to be yelled at, but it was a former council member who just was in shock how nice the place looked. I said, "Oh yeah," and I have a new chair. After 10 years, I got a new chair. But so I understand my colleagues, and I do want to debate with this, but I do want for the residents listening to understand it's challenging to attract people. We can prove that by resumes being received here. Put an ad out yourself. It's not easy to find some of these jobs fulfilled. And Edison is a challenging work environment. Go to League of Municipalities, nobody's running to jump a job to come here. And we've known that for a long time. So thank you for being a part of our team, and thank you for taking the risk, and you're certainly worth it.
Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Toyle. I had promised Councilman Patel.
Oh, and then a
before,
rebuttal.
Councilman Patel.
Okay. I personally see this as if we are okay with the market, if we're within range, and personally, I would like to see comp with Woodbridge, as I feel they're pretty close to us in size, and either way, I would like to see a comp with Woodbridge as to where they stand. And again, this is to attract talent. Talent takes money, and it is a risk anytime you switch jobs. So it's important that we have our salary matches what the market is offering. And if we're not, then we're not going to attract the talent we need to serve the residents, and the tax dollars that we do pay might be wasted. So it's important that we keep up with the market. So I am hopeful that we get the comp in before Wednesday's meeting so we can make a sound decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. Councilman Brescher.
Yes, I'd like to get a copy of Health and Human Services, the business administrator. Who else was hired underneath this administration? Anybody that was hired under this administration. I'd like to get a copy of all of the applicants that applied for these positions, because my council colleague said that people don't apply. I do know that people did apply. And I never asked for the other resumes, for people that did submit it. But I think we should put this I call it a farce when we say that people won't come here to work. We've always filled positions. We had a problem initially with, I'm going to say DPW and water. And the problem for that was, I believe the salary was like $100,000. So yes, for $100,000, as my council colleague said, it's not competitive. But those salaries now are brought up to a competitive range, and we're talking about increasing it above that competitive range. Now, with that said, my council colleague, who's not here right now, said something about we can't get people that are CFOs. I'd like to ask the business administrator if she has any employees in the town that have a CFO license right now.
We sure do.
We do. So we have people with a CFO license in the town. My council colleague just made the announcement here that it's hard to get people like that, yet we have people here, multiple people, in fact. So he needs to do a little bit more research, I'd like to see. So I'm just dismissive and against what my council colleague had. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns pertaining to items under the business administrator?
No. Just like him, we like to see the different people the people that apply for the job, because they said people don't come here. And if you want the best and the brightest of people, we want the shining stars to come here to sign up, you know what I mean? So if we look at the resumes, then we can see we got the shining stars. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none. From the Department of Finance. A, reported disbursements through December 7th, 2023. B, resolution authorizing tax sale certificate refund, $100,671. C, resolution authorizing water overpayment refund, $904. D, resolution authorizing hydrant meter deposit refund, $2,514. E, resolution authorizing overpayment refund caused by successful tax court appeal. F, resolution requesting approval of items of revenue for the Liddell Bassel Corporate Grant Program, $10,000. G, resolution requesting approval of items of revenue and appropriation for Enbridge Safe Community First Responder Grant, $7,500. And H, resolution authorizes transfers of funds in the calendar year 2023, current fund appropriations. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
I think I got a couple of questions on H. My computer went down, so I didn't get that page.
Microphone.
Sorry, I can't hear.
A couple of questions on H for the transfer of funds. Did we keep the senior citizens in, or, because I know my computer went down?
That was taken out, so they're coming from different funds this time. I'll pull up the...
Pull it up for me, please.
Yeah. So the funds, and there were a couple of other items that were added on for the transfers, but where the funds are coming from, business administrator full-time, finance full-time, data processing full-time, tax assessment full-time, engineering services full-time, construction enforcing full-time, and health full-time. So they're all from salaries and wages line items.
Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Yes, Council President,
Yes,
you
Councilman
just
Patil.
gave the rundown of the list of these are the salaries that are the buckets of the salaries that we won't be spending till the end of the year, correct? Is an extra fund sitting there in those accounts?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Do we have the extra funds sitting in those salary accounts and we are trying to move that out?
That's my understanding. I can relook at the current fund.
Correct. So here is, again, the classic problem that happens with the budget. We create the position, we assign the salary range that is budgeted along with the benefit, and we don't spend, or that's underspent. So we already inflated the budget. Now we are underspending, and we are taking that money out from there and moving it somewhere else, which is outspent. That's these transfers are happening, right? typically, and I think, we are discussing this line item for years now during the budget session, saying even if a department needs 10 employees, and if we have only 5, the salaries of those 5 should not be moved. Our effort has to be to make sure that we fill those vacancies or we abolish those vacancies. And this is happening. This is called as the shell game. We are inflating budget year over year and then repurposing that money. So my request here, even last time I said, if there is a genuine reason that we need to transfer the funds, maybe the employee started a little late instead of January, say in June, so we have 6 months money left out. That money can be stacked towards his retirement fund because he's going to, or could be his holidays that he's going to in cash. So we have to be creative on that, but we don't do that. But I'm okay to move that type of funds into the departments where, like animal shelter, which desperately needs some investment. I think we could have bonded the money right here. We knew this animal shelter problem long back. Maybe in the month of December, we could have passed the ordinance, bond the money and use this fund at least to maybe build additional 1,000 square feet facility for animal shelter. So let's be creative and use the fund in a way that would give more value to the taxpayer rather than spending or repurposing that where it is overspent. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patil. Any other? Yes, Councilman Brescher.
Council President, yes, I'd like to, I mean, thank you for modifying H. I mean, that was nice. I just had an issue with, like I said, taking money from police, seniors. I do understand my council colleague where he's saying we kind of inflate the budget in a way. And that is something that we should look at in this current budget coming up. We should see what's unexpended in each of the departments. And that should be part of the whole budget process. I mean, otherwise it's just like a giant pot of money and we move stuff back and forth, and that's not what it was intended to be. But thank you again for H. I appreciate that. And the other items I'm good with. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Brescher. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? I know it's not something that is mentioned here because it says a refund caused by a successful tax court appeal, but there was actually an item where the township actually received some money back. So there was a good sign in the backup there. 12, from the Department of Health. A, resolution authorizing submission of Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse Fiscal Grant Cycle, October 2020 through June 2025. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, as I mentioned, we are adding several items under Department of Law. A, ordinance amending Chapter 37 zoning by creating a new 37-13A RC zone. B, ordinance amending Chapter 37 zoning by adding definitions for warehouses. And C, an ordinance amending Chapter 37 zoning by amending subsection 37-7.1 in regards to truck depots. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Brescher.
I'd like to say thank you for putting these on the agenda. I'm not quite sure about all of them or how I feel exactly because we just started with this. But I do appreciate your time in putting these in here. I think they're needed. I just don't know that the verbiage is perfect yet. It might be after I re-review them and stuff. But I'd just like to say thank you for putting them on here for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Patil?
Yeah, Council President, about this RC zone, I'm perfectly fine, happy to see that at least it's got change. Now again, this question to attorney, can I talk on the topic because it's tied to the settlement? Do we need to redo the voting on that particular resolution? Because that resolution has direct tie with the prior ordinance.
No, you passed the resolution authorizing the settlement. I discussed it with council regarding whether or not that would need to happen again based on the fact that there's changes to the actual text of the ordinance. It does not. There's no substantive change to what the ordinance accomplishes. So the form of the ordinance remains the same despite the changes to the language of the ordinance that better reflect the council's intention and wishes. So we're okay there. This would be able to go on.
Again, I'm just trying to be careful because, this is coming now. We have only
It was
2
a
meetings left.
consideration. so.
Okay, thank you. That's it, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Patil. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Coyle.
The first ordinance I just want to go over is the, there's actually two here. One, there's three. Well, the two warehouse ones I wanted to look at. The first one, I can agree to, I just need to review it. I wouldn't mind looking at some wordage of it, which is the amending 37 zoning, amending a subsection of 37-3.1, word usage definition. And then there's the other one here presented, which is amending chapter 37 zoning by amending the following subsections. And we discussed this, I know you tabled this before. My first part, from your leadership direction is you promised a meeting, and when we came to that meeting, other reasons, we didn't need to have that meeting till after January, so we postponed that meeting. I'm not saying I disagree with this, but yourself and Councilman Nish Patel offered an opportunity for me to sit down and change some verbiage if needed, all right? So that's the first, so I'm not prepared tonight, and I wish I was more prepared. But the course of action I'm challenged with is the repercussion of what we do before we take a comprehensive view of this. And my first, and thank you for sending all the information to me for warehouse definitions, which is put together by a large group, very attractive on here. And this is the New Jersey State Planning Commission of Office of Planning and Advocacy. I just want to know if there's anybody here that represents warehouse on here. And I don't see that, but that's a later question to be answered. But I don't see that on here. But the point I looked at was item 9 for fulfillment centers. And I'm just confused how we identify this ever-changing growth of warehouse and what warehouse has done for Edison. And I know sitting here at the dais, we've had numerous complaints about truck traffic. And I'm with the residents of Edison not having a warehouse facility in a residential neighborhood. But what I'm not sure what I read in here, and when I read in this commission's report, how they define certain descriptions that are prohibited to have, is one being the fulfillment center, and how we classify UPS. So I guess my first question is, what is UPS classified as?
I would not have a distinct classification. If UPS is continued, use is of concern. The language in the ordinance allows for them to maintain in that use as of right use, to my understanding. So hopefully that addresses some of that concern.
Now, that doesn't address my concern, because if we're if UPS fits into fulfillment center, I think UPS has done a great job offering job opportunities to people and has a union. I mean, to be a UPS driver is a good job. They've been in Meriton Center for decades, so has Federal Express. And what I don't get from this is whether we're going to stop them from growing or opening up another facility in the area. That's just some confusion I have. And I think they've done a great job, and they've been good, to the community. They've changed their routes. They've left at different times of the day. They certainly have fulfilled the mission of rush hour for us, that's for sure. In fact, I think I've complained when GPS has taken them through neighborhoods on routes. They corrected that for us and don't do cut-throughs as they did in the past. So, fulfillment center has a lot of broad description here in the table of contents for fulfillment center on page 9. They have a last mile, and then they have a middle mile on here. So, I do want to get behind the opportunities you care for and that residents address concerns too. But like I've said before, I've yet to hear anybody get upset over vans on the road. They've gotten upset over, my biggest complaint I heard from the residents, and as I walk through neighborhoods, is truck traffic. So there are two items I just need to try to redefine before I can get behind this. And I just asking through your leadership is to have more time to look at this, because you offered a meeting and then we postponed that meeting because we weren't going to do this until January. Suddenly we put it up at 12:15 today. I found that it's up. And again, hey, I should do my work as a councilman. Why should I ask for any privileges from you? But it's what you offered as my colleague. It's what the both of you have offered. I mean, I can continue to go on. If you want to address some questions now, I'll have others to ask as well.
Thank you. What I'll just mention in regards from a timing perspective, and I think some of my previous public comments have reflected this. I was of the misunderstanding, unfortunately, that a zoning ordinance had certain timeframes for introduction. I was under the impression that the last meeting was the last meeting where the timing framing would work out. I found out I was incorrect in that assessment, which is why I was open with putting back up the RC ordinance and for putting back up the warehouse definition. I understand the concerns that are brought up. My hope is that from a procedural standpoint, if the ordinance gets introduced, it has to go to the planning board for comment. We have to give them 35 days for them to comment on an ordinance. So they may very well say that, hey, what's proposed is great. Or they might very well say, hey, what proposed doesn't make sense. Or, hey, maybe this should wait until the master plan. All are very vital potential responses. But the fact of the matter is that we got to get to the point where we even allow them to offer comment on it. So my hope would be that they would be able to do that to give us more insight to potential, if there were potential concerns. And that's where I'm at right now. Thank you.
Council President?
Councilwoman Schiff-Freeman.
Just for asking, what happened with the master plan? I thought that within the master plan being completed, that a lot of this stuff we wouldn't be going through, because the master plan would answer a whole lot of questions, set up a lot of ordinances, set up zones. I thought all that would be completed by now. It's like going on, it's been a very, very long time. And I just have a problem with us throwing stuff on the side and not completing stuff,
I can offer up to Councilman Patel about where the planning board is at the time. Would you like to address that?
Sure. So let me answer that first. The planning board already had the last hearing for the master plan, and they should be presenting it hopefully soon, and planning board should be adopting it soon. I just don't have the timeline for it. In terms of Councilman Coyle, the UPS would be a distribution center based on this definition, because it specifically states that the fulfillment center requires separation, repurposing, breakup of a particular package. UPS does none of that. They will just take the package and distribute it. I did have a question for legal on this.
Which one?
Under fulfillment center, there's I that says any property, development, use, or site development standard made non-conforming by the adoption of ordinance number XXX 2023 shall be considered conforming and shall be subject to zoning requirements applicable to prior to the adoption of the 1999 code. If we don't have this verbiage in this, what happens? Like if we remove that portion? Because I assume that the grandfather clause will still take care of it.
This essentially grandfathers those things in, right?
Yeah.
So without that, the grandfather protections, I believe, become significantly less generous.
Okay.
So that essentially, it covers a lot less area.
Okay.
Okay, that's my understanding of why this was in here. I believe Mr. Ranone put this together, this specific language, and since this was introduced today, I didn't have time to go over it in full with him, but that's my understanding of what the intention is for that particular paragraph.
Okay.
Council President?
Just before, any additional comments?
I'll think this over. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Patel. Councilwoman Schiff Freeman?
Council President, no disrespect to Councilman Patel, but they keep saying soon, soon, soon. Soon never comes. And as I look at the planning board and as I look each time for the schedule, they keep telling those people, even the people in the community, oh, come back next month, for little small issues. So forgive me if I'm having a serious issue with this master plan, because it was so gung-ho, it was gonna do all these great things for us. Now we're saying, I know it's not your fault at all, because I'm on the actual committee, and I'm just having a problem with it not being followed through. We would not be going through all these little things like this if the plan was set and the plan was in place. Then we could say, oh, no, that doesn't go in that area. No, that doesn't go in that area. Because we have people in here fighting about still the same things they were fighting about last year and the year before. So it becomes very frustrating to them to not have something tangible that they can at least, go along with. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Schiff Freeman. Any other comments?
Council President.
Yes,
Just
Councilman Corr.
referring back to Councilman Patel's comment, which I can understand, and I'm happy that UPS may not be part of fulfillment. But if you scratch the surface of what, I guess, is there an accounting measure in place of what UPS does versus what the fulfillment center does? And essentially, and again, part of my reason why I think we just need more time, not to say your efforts are not accounted for, but where UPS has a certain amount of trucks and a certain amount of packages, who are we to say who picks and packs or just ships? I mean, while Amazon or a fulfillment center is picking and packing and shipping, if you went into their facility, they also don't maximize their space. I mean, if you look at your typical warehouse at other places, they have racks that go 32 feet high in the air. And other warehouses that are fulfillment do not. But I can't say, because I don't know, who's pushing out more vans per day, UPS or Amazon. This is just a realistic question. Because while UPS is just being dumped trailer loads or pre-packed items and moving it throughout the day, I know my local driver does between 125 and 175 stops per day. That's one driver. And if you've gotten a chance to see that facility, it's an operation. It's an operation. So I'm stagnant to look at how we criticize one and we accept another. I mean, this is just basic entrepreneurship that I care about, because I support business and I support jobs, and these bring us jobs. So, and the other part I don't see in this ordinance that's written is the amount of vehicles of what triggers a fulfillment center. And I don't know the accounting difference between, UPS, Federal Express, or I don't know if it's Airborne Express anymore, but whoever is that new company that took over Airborne Express. But so the accounting of mathematically vehicles versus fulfillment, packages versus picking and packing, that's where I just don't know. And it's not defined in here other than the amount of square foot. So take your typical entrepreneur that rents 200,000 square feet or decides him and his father builds a building for 200,000 square feet. It's typical they may use 1,000 for manufacturing, say they're in the auto parts business, and say they want to sublet their 100,000 square feet to 4 different entrepreneurs to do something. Who are we to decide how they fulfill their business operation plan as a 25,000 square foot, entrepreneur? Whether they decide to distribute medical devices, they decide to distribute auto parts. I mean, we have them around. Auto parts are popping up all over the place. And they have small cars and they dispatch parts throughout the day. So I just would like to see more defined numbers in this ordinance rather than it just be categorized and using this definition here because, and I can go over this definition with you for a good hour and a half. It's convoluted and it just has a lot, it's a lot encompassing too much into one. That's just for the last mile. Forget about the middle mile and the defined purpose behind picking and packing versus being dumped packages. So, and that's where I'm just asking for more time. I have no problem, introducing this next meeting. I know you have a timeline personally to fulfill this before the end of this year, and I understand that. My questions are just fair questions to the business community, fair questions to those who want local jobs, fair questions for everybody who's chose to live in Edison to have a job and live in a recession-proof neighborhood. These are the foundations of our communities. And although again, when it comes to trucks in residential neighborhoods, which has triggered all this stuff, I am not for trucks in residential neighborhoods. I am not for that, where a small local warehouse that was sitting asleep, becomes this distribution center in a small neighborhood filled with homes and is working 24/7. I'm not for that, but I just want to partake in a fair debate with an understanding of what our goal is. And back to Councilwoman Shipp, she made a good point here. She said, what about the master plan? We talked about the master plan. So I assume the master plan would be the benchmark before we get to this. And last, is there an expert here today to discuss this?
In regards to the expert, I don't see Mr. Bignell here, though I have had numerous conversations with him about this. In regards to the master plan, when it's coming, planning board is its own separate entity. They are at their own purview. They're their own autonomous body, right? While I respect what is done there, we also are an autonomous body and have the right to legislate. And I believe that this is good legislation. Now, municipal land use law states that we have to bring it. It has to go to the planning board for comment. They have 35 days, as I just mentioned. And they may very well comment back. We appreciate the intent, but you have no definition of high-cube warehouse here. You have no definition of last mile here versus the fulfillment center. They may recommend some of the items from the square footage. Hey, anything over 150,000 square foot should be defined as X. Anything from 75,000 to 150,000 should be defined as Y. These are all legitimate items that may come back, but I cannot give a definitive until they actually make that comment. The comment that was brought up about like UPS and them using, and to what Councilman Patel had mentioned about the grandfather clause, that grandfather clause, I think, adds the protection that you're worried about in that aspect because they would be grandfathered in. It should be noted that from a land use perspective, even if a use were to become non-conforming, they would still have opportunity to go before the zoning board as either a use variance or a continuous of the non-conformity, but expanding. The second one being a D2 variance and the non-conforming use being a D3 variance. So I think that helps ease some of the concern there. And in regards to, you had mentioned about manufacturing, I take that to heart because right out of college, my father had purchased a architectural millwork company. And when reflecting on this ordinance, I didn't want to hurt anyone that was doing manufacturing because I wouldn't want to hurt that type of business. So I understand the concern, but manufacturing, to my understanding, is still a permitted use within the zones. So I don't think that there is as much of a concern there. And that would be my comments on that. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Council President, I'm not done, but I'm choking over here. If you give me 30 seconds.
If you have additional comment, you're
I just wanted to just redefine the misunderstanding of the grandfather clause for UPS, because in oversight of discussion, not reading this, because again, I don't feel I had enough time since today to discuss this, and I thought I had more time, but again, my fault as a councilman. You said there, I thought this ordinance was for any new warehouse, correct or incorrect?
From, in the initial standpoint, yes, from any new, but from a certificate of occupancy standpoint, there may be some overlap with that as well.
Okay. Oh, that changes a lot of things. Okay, my first discussion with you is this is for any new warehouse. And same discussion I felt I had with Councilman Patel for any new development. So the fact that you're also stating it's not just new development, it's pre-existing warehouses for any certificate of occupancy for that warehouse, correct?
Yes,
For a new company.
But even if that location and that property were grandfathered in, then they would be able to continue with that use.
Okay. For example, Company A leaves, who was operating similar to a UPS facility, and Company B comes in. UPS moves to a bigger location, no different than GPS, just left Edison, went to Piscataway, and opened a big place. GPS was not GPS is not an example, but people moving out. But so warehouse B, who comes in to take over a facility that was an as-of-right use in the past, do they have to reapply?
No, my understanding is that this would continue being that use would be grandfathered in, so they would not have to reapply in that manner. At least how this is written. I know that there's some comment about the conformity aspect on that line item, and that's a fair question. But I think it addresses the questions that you're currently posing, which are valid, absolutely.
Okay, and I don't see that here. And if you can point it out to me before the end of my conversation, I'll give us some time for that. The other part is in the warehouse zone, you take a perfume manufacturer who we have in Raritan Center at this time. That company decides to pick up and move for some reasons, a lot of reasons. They move to a bigger space, better location, whatever it may be. Company B comes in to want to have a similar opportunity like UPS, receive packages and distribute. What is their process?
Raritan Center, how it is written here, would follow the process as it is today.
So they would have they would just be able to come in?
Shouldn't be any issue to my understanding.
Because that's not how I'm reading it, and I'd like to see how that's pointed out. But I'm corrected if wrong, but I don't see that. And last question is, I'm reading through here, and I'm being told it doesn't affect the Kilmer area, it doesn't affect the Raritan Center area. Which areas does it actually affect? Because I had two different stories today from a few people, not saying the council, so can you walk me through who is it affecting you? What is it, all zones?
I'll defer to Councilman Patel, because I've
If you don't
spoken a
mind,
little bit.
Councilman Coyle. So essentially, RRD zone is going to stay the same. It's not going to change whatsoever. And ideally, we want all the warehouses there. Anything that we can get, we should have it in RRD zone. The ones that are being impacted are the LI zone. So think Silver Lake, think Kilmer, which are close to residentials. Think of it Kilmer. Kilmer, there is no easy way to exit from that particular area of Edison. You would have to go through Plainfield or all the residential areas to get out onto the main highways for those trucks. So we're trying to essentially not create a situation where we would have a lot of traffic in the residential zone. RRD zone is already separated, its own enclave, and it wouldn't matter if we had more warehouses there because it's very well connected to the main highways and it can go in and go out without impacting the residents' lives. So the main impact will be the LI zones. And only really the biggest limiting factor is that we don't want fulfillment center. So we don't want a warehouse that has 24/7 potential to have traffic going in and out of that warehouse. They could still have storage facility warehouse where there's not that much traffic in the LI zone, which is permitted use. And also taking the concern of something that was priorly approved, and the owners would be worried, hey, my property value just went down because the township decided to take away some of the functions that I could do. Well, this ordinance does protect that with a pretty lenient, as I would add, protection. So
Can you repeat that last 30 seconds? I'm sorry.
this ordinance protects the previous owners of said warehouses with uses, and it's pretty lenient, in my opinion.
When available, perhaps tomorrow you can highlight some of the 3 things we discussed that have these protections. So moving forward today, the Talmadge Road area would be affected, no fulfillment centers for the future, change of use.
Which area?
Talmadge Road, Kilmer, those areas would be no more fulfillment centers, no UPS.
Unless if they already had one, then we can't change it.
Okay. No PS, no UPS in on
They can have
Talmadge.
UPS.
They can have UPS. And again, fair comment, I don't know the difference between UPS and fulfillment center, and that, I'll do my last comments at the end. And Raritan Center could open up a new warehouse for a fulfillment center. I'd like to see that. I don't see that in here, and perhaps I'm misreading it. What about Heller Park?
I'll let President answer that.
It would depend currently where it's located because it's a little sprinkled with the RRD zone and the LI. My personal 2 cents on this is that eventually, particularly the Kilmer area, the Talmadge area, and where that area is mixed between the RRD and the LI zone by the Raritan, that those would eventually be rezoned separately. But I would like to hear the master plan's comments as to what they want from the bigger picture for those areas. Example being, current in the draft from the recommendation standpoint is a transit village at Edison train station, right? That's a much larger task, so to say, which may affect the zoning of that area later on, but I would like to see what they offer on that when it comes up. I know that we've belabored on this for a little bit. I'll obviously leave it open. I've always done that. But if there are additional questions or concerns, I would ask that maybe we take it offline since we've spoken about 20 minutes on this, but I will obviously leave it open if there are any other additional comments.
I'll just wrap up in 30 seconds,
Yes.
Council President. I'm certainly for change. I'm just not for the changes I see here today. I just want to do a comprehensive look together as a council. Heller Park is another alarming spot I'm confused on. It's been the backbone of Edison for decades. It's surrounded by chemical plants and a landfill, and now we're going to say, hey, no fulfillment centers. So I'm challenged. These opportunities bring jobs. If you know what Isaac Heller put down a childcare facility down there for those who could not afford childcare. I mean, they've been fair community partners there. It's challenging that, I get Talmadge Road, I get part of Kilmer, I don't get Raritan Center, I don't get the method behind Heller Park. So, and lastly, opportunities bring jobs, to our community. We have to look at the jobs that are brought here. And these are union jobs when it comes to UPS. And I just want to get a closer definition of UPS fulfillment center and the discussions we just had. And I'm sure you took notes, Council President, so I don't ever argue you didn't take notes. And if I can get answers to that, I'd feel more comfortable. And I'm sorry I cannot support this.
No worries, and I'll absolutely try to address the questions as best as I can. Any other questions, comments? Yes, Councilman Patel?
Question to the legal team. Can you go over the changes that we're making to the RC zone? Like what's different from what was presented prior and what's now?
Sorry, we spent so much time on the other one. I was very confused when you started asking that. Okay. So there are no substantive changes to the actual amendment to the zone itself. The only substantive change that was made is the name and the elimination of the golf course use within that zone. Everything else remains the same from the prior version with respect to the introduction of a new zone. And then some of the.
There was already answered.
Yeah, is that not, I was hearing the echo.
Yeah,
You got me? Okay. Yeah, so everything is the same within the changes made in the new portion of the ordinance and the new zone that's created, other than that use being eliminated and the name of the zone being changed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, moving on to Department of Planning and Engineering. A, resolution provides township's acceptance of 2022 roadway resurfacing program number 4 and authorizes final contract payment, including final retainage in the amount of $238,311, closing out of the construction project. B, resolution provides for the refund of the unused portion of developer escrow fees. And C, resolution awarding affordable housing planning and administrative services not to exceed $175,000. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Council President, on A, we are closing out, right? You know, all the inspection is done. There's no punch list, nothing left on this one.
My understanding is that the entire punch list was completed. These roads are specifically right off Plainfield Road, right by Woodbridge, or Woodbrook. There we go. I knew it was a wood something. But those streets that are right in front of the school, so Broad Street.
Oh, that's Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah. So it would be those 4 streets that are right in front of there, 4 or 5 streets.
I thought many more because there was email communication from me on Lavender. I believe there was one in Tower section. There were multiple of those.
This one's particularly so the initial contract, and I'll ask our business administrator to correct me if I'm mistaken. The road resurfacing project was divided into 4 different contracts. This 4th contract, though, is very minimal. I don't know the reason for the separation, but the amount of roads that are on this particular list are about 4 or 5.
Okay. So my final question on this, is this the last contract resurfacing? Because my comment does pose another question, but that's for another time. Because I know for the fact that there are more roads they were done. If they are not part of this contract, but this is a very isolated one, which is very narrow in scope, I'm okay with that. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. And I'm not sure if there's any additional, thank you. And I'll look into how the other contracts are broken out for you. Thank you.
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Patel.
Question to the administration. Can you explain what the Affordable Housing Planning and Administration Service entails? I understand they provided us a big document, but what exactly do they do?
So it's affordable housing is an obligation that we have to adhere to. So there is an application process for anyone that may apply. There's also a qualification that we have to meet in order to provide affordable housing throughout the township. So what they do, they provide all of the administrative services. They maintain the lists. They qualify folks. There's an application process that they maintain. So on an administrative level, that's what they do for us.
How long have they been doing this for us?
With CGP&H, I went far as back as 2021, but they may go further back than that. So don't quote me on it, but I can certainly look into.
2015, and then they started doing our planning services in
They do that through, I've used them in other towns. This is what they do. And they're pretty much experts on all things affordable housing.
The this might not be directly related. How many units do we owe, and what's the timeline on that? For the
Do we
affordable
owe
house?
in terms of the fair share
Fair share,
housing?
yeah.
I believe the agreement is up in 2025. I just have to check with the attorneys in terms of what may be the next steps and if there are. There's a waiting list in terms of the units, if you're looking for that information. But next steps, I'd have to just check with legal to see what we need to do next.
2025 is correct for the next round. What exactly Edison needs to do next, I can look into it. We can obviously discuss that. Off the top of my head, it's not something I'm prepared to answer right now. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none. 15 from the Department of Public Works. And just a note, under A, there is one more street opening escrow. It should have been provided. So A is resolutions releasing of street opening escrows. 3, B, resolution awarding contract for elevator maintenance and repair not to exceed $125,000. And C, resolution awarding a bid for 11 full-size pickups with options to vendors, total of $758,163. As a point of clarification to Councilman Brescher, I see what you were mentioning about the 10 note, but it should be for 11 vehicles.
Should be 11?
Yes.
Council President.
Yes,
I have a
Councilman
question.
Brescher.
Question on C. When we write this up in our agenda, and this doesn't exactly pertain, but if you noticed, like when I called you today and I said, I counted the vehicles and 4 plus 6 plus 1 is 11, not 10. Right, that was exactly what I was talking about. But who writes this verbiage? Does the clerk write the verbiage? Where does the verbiage come from?
I would have to defer.
Like the process.
For the resolution itself, if I may?
Yes.
This would typically come from the purchasing department and finance, so culmination of a couple different departments. Is there any specific language you're looking for in terms of?
Well, like this one where they didn't. So it's misleading, right? On here it looks like 10 vehicles, but we're actually approving for 11 vehicles.
The reason being is because what ended up being bidded out versus what may have been added on. So that could have been it. And I don't know why they broke it down that way, but I'll clarify if it's actually necessary. Because I do see why you think it's confusing. I would probably.
Right, and for this one, it's not that big a deal, but there was something else that I voted on during the year that I feel like I was misled, let's say. The way this was written was like we were doing something, and then if you didn't, which would make me not even want to look at the backup, right? But then when you looked at the backup, it wasn't what it actually said. So that's why I was wondering, who actually puts the verbiage together, just so that, right, I don't feel like I'm misled and we have more of an explanation, or maybe we need to write more verbiage.
I'll just, and sorry for cutting you off, I'll take ownership because I review it. I didn't catch that error. I looked at the resolution and internally did the 4 plus 6 plus the 1 after, and I didn't double check. So I'll take ownership of that.
No, yeah, but it's, okay, so it's not this one. I'll find the other one. My laptop I almost have that working. Once I get that, I told you, I'll find that. I'll send that to you.
If you could.
And it's not like it's a mistake. It actually looks like it was being misleading. So I'd like an explanation on it when I send it to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Council
Thank
President.
you. And just so you know, again, not meant to mislead or anything.
No,
like
this
that.
one I get, but it's the same premise, where this said one thing, and then the backup document sent something else. That's all.
Thank you. Any
Council
other-
President?
Yes, Councilman Coyle.
How long do you think it'll take for us to get the pickup trucks? 9 months, 4 months, 6 months?
If I can, through our business administrator, ask our Director of Public Works.
Within a year. This basically gets us lined up for the order that we're going to go.
Just because of residents that may be watching at home, if it's okay, just in case there's any additional follow-up, and I appreciate your cooperation with that.
Doors, 4.
Within a year.
Thank you. Any additional questions?
That's
or
it. No, I just, apparently we're still having supply chain management issues, and it seems like we got to forecast and order 10 more to see if we can get them for 2026. I'm just wondering, this is still insane how long it takes to order a truck.
Well,
No one's, yeah, it takes a long.
we wouldn't be able to do that because we don't have the funds to do it. So that's part of the issue. But
No, I know.
not to jump to the from this placement to the agenda to police, but you know, with the police, those are actually ones that are at the lot, and that's why those are there. So it depends on the vehicle.
I get it. It was like that for every truck or fire truck. Everything takes a long time.
Fire trucks are 2
Yeah.
years.
3 years?
Two.
2 years, wow. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Coyle. Yes, Councilwoman Schiff-Freeman.
Are these hybrid trucks?
I don't believe so, no. To our business administrator, is there any insight for that maybe going forward or anything like that?
Yes, so outside of emergency personnel, which DPW and the vehicles that use would be obviously used on an emergency basis, the utility trucks and so forth, fire and police. Right now, we're not exploring necessarily the hybrid part component to it, but as far as for inspections, health, code, we are going to put that into a bid for 2024 to explore the hybrid, including electrical vehicles.
Thank you. Any additional
No, I
questions?
just was concerned because if it's in a couple of years that we're going electric in New Jersey, you know, I don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on regular gas trucks. You know, I want to try to take us to the future. I want my money well spent, you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other additional questions, comments? Yes, Councilman Patel.
Just for the police, is there a reason why we don't go hybrid right now, or is it just not available?
The sensors that go into the lighting, the computer systems, for the actual job is not necessarily conducive to what they may be able to get the vehicle to do.
Okay.
So there have been some experiments. I know there are police departments. Actually, I was one that did purchase a electrical vehicle, but it's mostly used for community policing. So it's not necessarily used for day-to-day operations. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, 16 from the Department of Recreation. A, resolution awarding payment to various nonprofit organizations for league recreational services funding sports, $224,975. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Yes.
Yes, Councilwoman Schiff-Freeman.
Council President John Pointer, like Gloria Dittman said, you have class. I think it's ridiculous that I'm in the paper for all the stuff that I've done for recreation in this town for over 50 years of free time that I've done for recreation, for somebody to put my name in a paper saying that I'm against anything for recreational facility and nonprofit for children. I think it's a disgrace, and I think that people should stop. They should learn how to negotiate with people. They should learn how to talk to people. It's not about if I don't get my way, I'm going to scream and I'm going to yell like I'm like a little baby that I need a rattle or something. And, you know, I went and, you know, I spoke to different people and I said, what is the problem with adding a couple of $1,000s to the thing so that all children in Edison, you know, forgive me for saying all the children in Edison, no matter what group they're from, they all deserve to have something to help them along with the sports, you know. And I just find it highly insulting that I have to wake up and look in the newspaper like I'm this crazy person that doesn't want kids to have any type of sports stuff. And prior to now, this is like the 11th hour, prior to now, in September, they usually gave out the money for the nonprofit back and forth. But what I do, and I do like, is that Council President, you do talk and you do negotiate with people, and you discuss things like a grown-up, and you don't have my name in a paper on some false stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Schiff-Freeman. Any other?
President?
Yes, Councilman Brasher.
A couple questions here. Number one, what paper was that, Council Joyce Friedman? Or who is the writer?
Just to try, because
I think this is sidetrack. No?
yeah, that's
Oh,
not
it's
necessarily.
related to this.
Wait a minute, I think it was on.
And a question for somebody here that can probably tell me, at what minute in the meeting are we? So when I tell people that they can go to this minute, you know, in the meeting, because it's, how do I define this minute in the meeting? I mean, I can't tell them 8:24 because the meeting starts at like 0 and it goes to 3 hours or
I
something.
mean, if I had to take a guess, we'd be at minute 140, just since we started about 4 minutes late, 2 hours in, that's 120 minutes plus 20 minutes after. So I would say approximately 140
140?
from a minute perspective.
Okay. All right. I'd like to, in looking at this, to be honest with you, I'd like to explain how we got to all of this here. A couple years ago, we had a couple people from the youth leagues. One was Coach Cal and one was Mike Peer. They approached me. They said that they were approaching people saying that they couldn't get any funding and the funding was stuck here in Edison. Since it was for the children, I approached the prior administration about us revising these numbers and to make it fair to everybody. And the prior administration had, it might have been Kendra Roberts that did the numbers for us. But we came up with a funding formula, which is what we're looking at right here today. Okay, so my main concern at the onset has always been our youth sports and to make sure that they're funded. These numbers seem low to me. I think the youth sports should get more. I will be voting for the youth sports. Unfortunately, I was recommended by certain, you know, I'm going to say political people, right? That we make our meetings too long and they go to midnight. So what I was recommended to do was not to speak in depth on issues, just make a quick little blurb and then just vote no or yes. And they said that would help with the meetings. And I disagreed with all these political people that are recommending for me to do this, right? But I get it, right? They don't want to sit here and watch me this whole time. No one else wants to be here for this long. But I hate to tell you all that I'm sorry, but I can't do that, okay? And I did that at that meeting when we talked about this, okay? So I didn't go into great detail about it. I just voted no. Okay, because my intention was that the administration and the mayor would do the right thing. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, right? I didn't want to beat up the administration and the mayor because they said we should try and work together and the whole thing. So I was trying to play along with everybody and give them what they wanted. Subsequently, I received a bunch of phone calls and emails basically saying what my council colleague at the other end was saying, something like, you know, we don't care for the children, which happens to be a farce. Okay, so let's get into really who cares about the children. What we did at the last meeting was we asked for a couple $1,000s. Now, we spent $500,000 to put rock in the ground to stabilize a field that we could have let dry out, that we could have worked with. But we didn't want to do that because we wanted to have the field done so that people could see a done field, but no one's playing on the field now anyway because it's too cold. So we wasted $500,000, $500,000, but we couldn't give one little group $3,000. That's embarrassing on the administration and our mayor. But let me just get into looking at the numbers when we talk about what's fair, because your council here has asked the administration, it wasn't myself, but my other council colleagues, we asked originally if we could verify these numbers to make sure everything was fair, right? And it came back that it was. So I know I have certain council colleagues and we can do certain math here, right? Did anybody do the math? Any of my colleagues do the math to check any of this? You did. So can I ask you, Council President, Edison United Soccer Association, right? They have 8 fields 8 times 4,000 a field. Well, let's start off, wait,
I thought you meant from the total ask.
no.
Sorry.
Okay, well, let me just start off like this. There's a minimum and a maximum. The maximum is $44,000. There was a maximum put in place because the prior administration did not want to fund all the money for this because they didn't have it. They cared about the budget, and he didn't want to raise taxes, so he didn't want to increase it. Subsequently, we have a new mayor. It says maximum per group is 44,000. Yet I'm looking at 48,000 for North Edison boys baseball, softball, 52,000 for United Soccer, and 49,000 for Edison boys baseball. Okay, and that's above the 44,000. Now I have no problem with raising that. I was a big fan of keeping that raise. So that line item there should be stricken from here, number one. Okay, because that makes this document not legitimate. But let's go to Edison United Soccer Association. This group is receiving $52,000 a year. Then they have United Soccer 8 fields, right? And how much do they get a field? Is it 4,000 a field? 4,000 per field. So 8 times 4, that's 32 they get for the fields, correct? And then we give them money per child. Okay, now I don't believe that this number per child of 1,060 actually is correct. Okay, I believe that number to be bigger. Somebody told me that was involved in the soccer league that they're up around 13 or 1,400 maybe. But for argument's sake, 1,060 times 37.73, does anybody know what that number would be? Here, I'll just do it real quick here. So I got 1,060 times 37.37 is 39,612. So when I take the 39,612 and I add in the 32,000 for the fields that they're supposed to get, that number totals $71,612. Okay? And if I subtract what we're planning on giving this poor league, which is $52,000, we're shortchanging all of our kids with soccer here to the amount of $19,612. Now, the people that called me about doing this funding, I explained to them it was about being fair and getting it to all of the groups and making sure that it's fair. Not just even the one group that we were looking to add for the measly $3,000, but that soccer seems to be not getting their fair share. Okay, and what we did as a council was we kept quiet, right? Because we wanted the meetings to move along. We didn't want to make the mayor look bad like he doesn't care about the children. But because of all the phone calls I got where I had to deal with 8 hours of informing residents and parents that I'm not against your children. In fact, I'm the one that's been fighting for your children. I was the one that pushed to get the increases brought up initially. Okay, but instead I feel like our mayor plays politics. Okay, so it should be exposed that to me it looks like it's $19,000. Now, does anybody disagree that soccer, by the calculations on this sheet, deserved $19,612 more? Is there any of my colleagues that disagree with my math?
No, and I don't play politics, so I don't disagree with that. With you adding up the numbers and the amount of people that they have within the the formula for the amount of money spent per child at all. But I still don't see the like $3,000 that's just easily rather than playing politics with that whole $3,000. I don't see how that will hurt this amount in the least bit. I just don't see it at all. And the thing is that rather than playing politics, why don't we just, the $3,000 for, this is, just be diplomatic. You should learn how to work with people. And that's what I thought that is supposed to be done within the mayor, within the council people, within the people working together for a common cause so that we can make Edison the best and represent the best. But if you don't think you need to talk to other people, you don't think, and you keep things for people for vindictive, petty things, it shines a dark light on us, a very dark light.
But the question that I have here, Council President, is, I just did the math for the council body, but I don't hear everybody speaking up for the children that play soccer. I know that your children play soccer. So I'm asking, why aren't we speaking up for all the groups that they all get fair funding? And yet I got accused of not supporting the children, right? Which happens to be the joke because it looks like I'm the only one that's here supporting the children, except for my colleagues at the other end.
Council President.
Can I just ask a clarifying question, please? Because I understand the point. I don't know if there are any other items that the matrix takes into consideration. Just example person, I'm not saying I know, but it says 4,000 per field that are used that have 80% Edison residents. Like my assumption then is that what the field amounts are, to your point, then would equal out. But I don't know if that's exactly what was used to calculate that new allotment amount.
So we asked originally, right, were the calculations done correct? You remember that, right? That was a couple meetings ago, I think, too. And then we were told yes. So now all of a sudden we don't know, right? And because I was trying to be quiet, like everybody asked me to do, now here I am, right? Because quiet obviously didn't work for the public, not for all these parents to be calling me, but the parents should see that it's like this administration that isn't doing it. What I'm asking is my council colleagues that are here with me tonight to say this to the administration and the mayor. Stop playing games with the kids. Fund everybody fairly that's on this sheet, because that's what I'm saying. I'm going to vote for this, but I want this fixed, all right? I want soccer to get the money that they deserve. And I want somebody to explain to me how I heard that this was correct and the numbers aren't correct, just like the agenda where I said that number wasn't the same as before. So it's mistake after mistake after mistake, right? And then what happens? You come to me with a salary ordinance. I know that was before, but you see how it all ties together in a big picture? So, Council President, what is your feeling on the soccer?
What I would like to do is, if I can ask the administration to see if there's any validation why there may be discrepancy. I have not done that math equation in that detail. Now, I'll take ownership. I said that the monies that were in the matrix equaled out to what was in the resolution. So my focus was just on
the whole number.
the new allotment.
I understand.
I didn't do the other equations. So
understand.
Unintentional. Hopefully you understand.
No. And I'm good with voting on it, but what I'm saying is this should be amended afterward then, and they should be treated fairly, all right? And that's where I'm going with it. And if this body doesn't do that, then I'll be honest with you, I'm disappointed with everybody that wouldn't support doing this for the children. If that means cutting off the mayor's budget, right? Or cutting off anything the mayor puts on, that's what this body should do to take care of our children here and to make sure that it's being taken care of. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. And my request to the administration, if there's any, if it can be asked how the new allotment number is calculated, I thought it was just extrapolated out. If there are any items that may cause for that to be different, it'd be appreciated. Thank you. Councilman Patil.
Council President, in fact, I was waiting for my council colleague to finish his calculations so I can comment on that. I don't think anybody on this council dais said we don't support the youth. I don't know why it was misled and that message was passed in social media. Again, it's a sheer politics. We all know where it is coming from and why it is coming. Long story short, now we know the calculation. So the way we have some supporting document, not often everything we get, we should get the supporting document showing the calculations so that we understand what the math went. It's insane that the council colleague has to do the math and ask for more money. Yes, there is a formula there, but just to make sure that it links up with the latest and greatest data. Again, in all honesty, as I said, like this is third council meeting, we are talking about this funding. I don't think any council member is against funding the youth's program. We have said that repeatedly. It's only are they all inclusive, and is everyone getting the enough funds so that they can sustain, survive, and continue to survive in this struggling market. So again, I would highly recommend, Council President, I know you always take the ownership when there is some fallout. I don't think it is your job to do the calculations. I don't think it is your job to provide the supporting documentation. Yes, our administration is taking the notes, and I will have the list when my turn comes in. It's the responsibility of the administration to communicate directly to the council person, copying the council president and council vice president. That's my ask. What is happening now, information goes to you, sometimes you forget, sometimes you don't feel appropriate to distribute, and then you start taking the ownership. So if you look at throughout the year, probably you took the fallout of administration, that ownership, not once, not twice, but if you go and listen to this meeting, probably a dozen times. That's not what you are. You're a wonderful guy. You're running this meeting, I would say, very respectfully, but you are taking somebody's blame, which is, I don't think, as a leader, you should continue to do that. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you for your comments. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none. 17, from the Chief of Fire. A, approval of volunteer firefighters. B, resolution of support to submit an application to NJDCA, American Rescue Plan Firefighter Grant. And C, resolution authorizing change order to Wilmer Public Safety Group for fire equipment, $32,000. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Patil.
On A, do we have the names? Typically, it comes on the top of the agenda, the approval of firefighters and their names.
On the Wednesday's meeting for the regular session, they would have that.
It'll be on the
but,
top?
But on the backup, and if you want to,
No, it's in a backup, but it again is, as my council colleague was saying, that when we read something, we don't need to go in backup, especially some of the items like this. If I know there are 2 or 3, good enough. I'm a big fan of having more volunteer firefighters, but it will be better if you have, but if that's going to come on Wednesday, that's fine. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. And there are 4 volunteers. I know that doesn't elaborate much, but.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns for Chief of Fire? Seeing none. From the Chief of Police. A, resolution awarding contract lease for Rico copier for Detective Bureau, $350 per month, not to exceed $16,800. And B, resolution awarding contract to purchase 9 police vehicles, $412,632. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none. From the council member of the Planning Board, Council Member Dr. Nishith Patel.
We had a special planning board meeting on November 30th. The first case, there were 5 cases heard. The first case was P14-2023, Ankit Patel, 765-771 Wood Ave Block. The applicant is proposing a minor subdivision for approval where he will be building a private road and building 3 homes. This subdivision was approved. Case number 2 was P15-2023, AK Reality 2 LLC at 67 Brunswick Ave. The applicant was proposing a preliminary and a final site approval to construct a warehouse on a vacant land. This was a permitted use with no variance requested. The one thing they were waiting on was the DEP, and it is not a fulfillment center. Case number 3, which was P18-2023, Federal Business Centers, Sweetwater Lane and Dock Road. It's a minor subdivision approval is sought for existing vacant land. This was the first step to the applicant in opening up their port, and they have a bigger plan for this particular lot, and they're just working their way to get there, and it was approved. Case number 4, P17-2023, PSENG 234 Pearson.
Applicant is proposing to construct a new mobile transformer with associated transformer storage area and construct a one-story maintenance building. This particular applicant is building within their lot already and is well hidden from any and every resident. It's the PSNG property off of Route 1, and it was approved. Case number 5, P07 2023 TNS Future Investments LLC, 63 Taft Ave. The applicant is seeking a minor subdivision approval to create 2 lots, existing single-family dwelling to remain, and construct a new single-family dwelling on a second lot. This applicant was denied based on the fact that there were other lots surrounding that were bigger and did not provide the requirements to subdivide. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. We move on to the unfinished business ordinances for further consideration, public hearing and final adoption. Ordinance 2194-2023, an ordinance amending and supplementing the code of the Township of Edison and establishing the position of public advocate. Comments?
None at this time.
Okay. I will just say that I cannot put it any better than Joel Bassoff did and the question that he left everybody with. Thank you. We move on to discussion items. I'm going to start this time with Councilwoman Joyce Ship-Freeman. I know. No, I'm starting with you. I'm starting with you.
My name is at the end, so.
I'm starting with you.
Okay, if you insist.
I do.
Okay. Don't call me next time, the first one. All right. I already asked about the lights. They said that was a one-day show for all that money for the, I tell the residents that from the Christmas program. Also, the second Sunday in December is a day that they light candles all around the world for people they have lost. And they asked me, could our council get together a resolution for the second Sunday in December? And they said it doesn't matter whether you lost your kid to a drug overdose. It doesn't matter whether you lost your sister, your brother. It said it doesn't matter. It's still a great loss to you. So that second Sunday in December, we can get a resolution for that. I'm not rushing you right this second, but that's what I was told. Now, also, about the Toth building, I was speaking to Dr. Toth's son, and he's very concerned about his father's name not being on that building because his father's a veteran, outstanding, did free services and stuff for medicals, and so he's very, very worried about his father losing that. And I do, if people want to see, I have the actual written resolution from 1976 in March. He sent me all the information so that we could do that, so you could see that. And the North Edison folks said, we spent millions of dollars down South Side. They said, could they just get an outdoor gym at the Minnie B. building? They said they're not asking for much. They spend millions down the other side of town. They said, can you at least spend $5,000 or so to give them an outdoor gym at the Minnie B. Center? So, I'm leaving that to find the answer for that. I know most of the time I don't get answers, no matter what, but that would be a good thing to start with. All right, and let's see. They told me about that, Bill Toth, and about the candles, keeping the lights on. Okay, that's very, very good. Okay.
Thank you, Councilwoman Shipman. Sorry, I came in a little after. Councilman Patil.
Thank you, Council President. I have a long list because we are towards the end of the year. Through Administrator question to, through Council President question to Administrator. Farm Haven, speed hump sign. I'll avoid.
Wait, I'll come back to you if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I appreciate it. Sorry. Councilman Patel.
Would have questions for administration.
Understood. Council Vice President
Same
Harris.
here.
Councilman Toyle.
Thank you, Council President. First, just want to mention concern for addiction, and the more we can do for addiction and sobriety is truly important. We recently received a grant through a settlement, I believe, for about $500,000. So I'm hoping this council will support some events that are being proposed by a nonprofit and also by an organization, a few volunteers at JP Stevens with a few supervisors that are parents. So we do have this money available, and now that the BA is here, I could talk to the BA. So thank you all for not waiting. But to the BA, what is the process of proposing to you for the funding for the addiction monies that have been given to us?
You're referring to the opioid monies?
Yeah.
So there's some strict guidelines in terms of what we can, how we can expend. So if you have an idea, certainly you can shoot that over to me, and I can just check with finance in terms of what we could do. A lot of this stuff we've been told to is focused on public safety related items and with health. So we can certainly look into if there's a...
I read through the entire grant. There's a lot of different things allowed in there. But what the mayor's focus and administration is understood. And the cost of some of the interest, there's a few volunteers looking to do something. We're talking like $3,000 for an event, 2 events. One has been, and we'll propose them at a later date. But changing subjects too, I just want to also, going back to our holiday tree lighting, I forgot to mention our recreation department that was here before. We all know they do a lot for us, and our acting director was here, who does a lot. And they all together, Public Works and everybody involved, we do appreciate all your hard work in putting that together. Super important. And last, again, just the ordinances that we discussed for warehouse. I just wanted to have, more time to review this. I don't want to be redundant and repeat the same thing, but, as we change, as we discuss a master plan and the opportunities for the master plan, I just would prefer to see that, that come first and then this to follow. And I understand there's a rush to do this, to finish it for the end of the year for some colleagues. But as we look at this, it determines the long, history of Edison and what we've stood for in the past and what we could be tomorrow. And if anyone has a chance to read the definitions on here of one of the documents that the council president says, it's quite complicated, and it needs more than just one meeting to understand what we're trying to accomplish here. And I get it. And I spoke to my council colleague as well, and there are just certain areas that have been the foundation of warehouse forever. I'm just challenged what, like we mentioned, who determines UPS, FedEx, who determines fulfillment, and how we, we're one example. UPS can pick up an account and distribute for another third party and be more busy than the other. So how things are accounted for is just something I definitely just want to define with us and how we look at this, because the definition of how many vehicles, how many square feet, how many employees, how many packages, I mean, is that what we're looking to do, get down to the wire? Or we just want to, gross label, hey, it's fulfillment, it's a no. So I just wanted to get through this and carefully look through it, and I'm hoping we move this for another meeting. And I'm open to sit down with anyone to do a comprehensive dive and how the cause and effect could be for this ordinance. And that's all I have. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Coyle. I'll revert back to Councilman Patil.
Thank you, Council President. Through Council President, question to Administrator. Farm Haven, the speed hump was removed, but the sign is still there. Do we know? That, again, this is the third time I'm bringing this up. Hopefully we can remove before the end of the year.
What is the name of the street again, if you can repeat?
Farm Haven.
Farm Haven.
My second thing is there is a 35 miles per hour sign left between Adam Street and Edison Avenue. We did the ordinance and we changed the speed from that section. This is probably 100 feet, 2 street they left. I don't know why we left that sign. So if you can look into that and remove that sign. This is on the ground. Speed limit signs on Oak Tree Road. This I'm bringing again and again. I don't know where to reach. I know you're taking the notes, but Sanya, I'm very serious. I will read the whole list in the month of January when I take the oath. Please make sure that these things are taken care and we are serious about this.
If I can respond, please, if you could email me these, because I understand that you're going to give me, 10 to 20 items, but it would be helpful if I could distribute this amongst different departments rather than not have the extensive answer that you're looking for tonight.
I will. In fact, I would say 90% of these are already in the emails, and I'll forward those emails back again. Or I will put one big list and I will copy council president so he can keep following.
Thank you.
With you. We're having an in-man, the corner tree. We know that. Thank you for taking care of coordinating with PSEG, but where do we stand on removing that tree? We are hitting the end of the year. The tax sale schedule, I don't see the updated list, but I have a question on that because there are a lot of residents, they are not happy. Mayor sent the tax sale notice on 15th of November, which was Wednesday. 15, 16, 17, quite a few people are, I would say, many that I reached out, they received this on 21st when the deadline was passed. So I don't know why we do during the holiday season, there is a lot of traffic, or I would say there is a heavy postal delay. I don't know, maybe not this year, but at least next year we should at least send them at least a week before or week and a half before so we can eliminate the postal delays. My second point is, there are many people that I reach out because I believe the people should pay the tax money rather than giving it to tax sale. They paid, but the list is not updated yet on the website. This should be updated very frequently because people are nervous. They are saying, hey, my property is still on tax sale. I don't know why that is happening and why we are in 21st century, we are not doing that quick. We are quick on taking the money, but we are not quick in giving that quality of service. This is a very high time now to look at the work with the school board and look at all the bus routes. Traffic in Edison is nightmare, we all know that. It takes, at least from Oak Tree Road to Town Hall, it takes 45 minutes to an hour. And especially during the school season, morning and afternoon, it's terrible. I'm not just talking about the north end, it is south end, Clara Barton, it's across the board. So this is very high time to reach out to the Board of Ed, look at their bus routes before they go out for bid. Again, this is proactive step. Before they go out and bid, look at all the major stops. They are on the major streets, like it's an Amboy Avenue or Talmage or Oak Tree or Woodbridge Avenue, where traffic is a concern, schools, kids' safety is a concern. Repair and repaving of Plainfield Road and Amboy Avenue. I know my council colleague did give some update, but those roads are ripped and it's a violation of Edison Road Ordinance. They were supposed to be restored to the original condition. They're terrible. The property address 715, 719, 723 New Durham Road, the cleanup. I don't know how far that progressed, but we need to work with the developer, whoever it is, to make sure that that gets cleaned up before it is too late. 2021 summons. Now we know I spoke about this topic not once, many times, but now health department related summons, they are still outstanding. Residents are still getting these summonses from the health department. If you can, please pull that list and make sure this is taken care once for all. The another dangerous spot that was, again, this is in my email, Maplewood Avenue, Ember Avenue. It's a school bus stop. There is no stop sign. There is no striping on the road. The reason I was waiting so that we have the machine now, and hopefully that can be used as quick as we can in various places. But this is the road I was told the traffic department is evaluating. Now this is more than a month. If you can please look at that. Flooding, because I'm bringing this up because we're at the end of the year. Stephenville Parkway, Summer Street, and many areas. I'm talking this now last 6 years on the council. Hopefully we'll have some progress made during this year. Kilmer Road striping. Again, this is as soon as you get out from Highland Park all the way towards Edison train station, it's very difficult. It's a 4-way lane. There's hardly anything striping there. It's a safety issue. And again, this is not the first time I'm bringing. Several times I did this. Amazon noise. We are getting too many emails. I know there are summonses, there are court. I think this is high time. I don't know what can be done, but administration has to step up and either work with their corporate office or bring them here and work through some logistics to put to the end. The gas tanker parking next to Akbar. My council colleague did bring this up many times. No action. I don't know, we let people free. There's no summonses, nothing. It's very dangerous. Hopefully no accident. Unless we take care of that, it's not a 1 or 2 tanker, there are dozens of them. And if you go there, you don't have to even look at the tanker. As soon as you enter, you'll get the smell. The HOA reimbursement. Several HOAs reach out to me. Just a quick question, Sonia, did we reimburse 2022 and 2023? The reimbursements for HOAs for the common space. That means because the HOAs are operated, or I don't know how they are taxed differently, but the township does give the reimbursement to compensate the trash removal, snow removal within the property, as well as the street lights on the common roads. I have not seen people reach out to me, and I don't know, this should have been a budgetary item, but I don't know if we missed or we are delayed there. But those folks are also closing their financial year, so we need to take care of this quickly.
Excuse me, Councilman, you're saying that their taxes and stuff that they're paying in the HOA is their different money, but they're actually paying taxes on their actual
Property, correct.
So they are afforded the
they get the partial reimbursement from that tax. Actually, the association gets, not the individual homeowner there. And I have seen those checks. They're small, but they do rely on that. I'm going to move the one item on the list ahead of a time. Whenever I see this sign, I get frustrated, believe me or not. We wear this badge with pride and honor, Edison symbol, emblem. They should be on the wall, not on the floor. I hate to see when somebody stepping on the sign. This is one of the nicest things that we have, and we have everybody comes and steps. This is an insult to the township, an insult to the government organization. I think somebody should take care of that before end of the year and move this back where it was, and it should look good and shining. I don't know whose idea was that, but it's horrible. My other line item is the list of the properties they were considered in the eminent domain, or township or this administration took the initiative to demolish them so that they can be condemned. I need to get the list of all those properties and the amount that we spent, and did we recover that money? And what's the fate of those properties? And the last one is the solar flashing lights. I know, thank you, Ray. I know you're not here for giving the updates. They are ordered, they will be there, but hopefully next year's budget will see more of them. That's it. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Patil. Clarifying question?
Yeah, pertaining to that, I want to ask the lawyer. So therefore, if they condemn a property and that person still owns the property, how does that work?
Using the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. If they condemn a property and, and they still own the property, but the town goes and demolishes everything on the property, but it's still their property, so how does that work?
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit confused. If the township condemns a property,
Yes.
if a township goes through with the condemnation process, the property owner no longer owns the property. So that's why I'm a little bit confused.
What you mean? What happened?
The condemnation process is very specific, so that when you complete the condemnation process, the township would then own the property. You can't go through with a condemnation and the property owner still own the property at the end of that.
Oh, so they can just take your property by eminent domain?
Not exactly, but are we talking about different things, or I see the administration is looking. Are we talking about
We're
the
talking about
properties?
two different things, and I believe what Councilwoman is referring to is some of the properties. For instance, there was a property on
Okay.
27, condemnation with redevelopment, which is different than
Yeah.
the eminent domain process. So
Okay.
there is still ownership, but then there's a choice for a redevelopment, and that owner could certainly put in for that. The township, my understanding, we have not demolished via eminent domain or anything like that, to my knowledge.
So
No, because I was just wondering if they could just take your property, because after they, because this, say for instance, I'm not talking about that on 27, I'm talking about throughout the town, okay?
So
Nothing
there's a number-
specific am I
yeah.
talking about, that if they go to that particular property and it's like an eyesore, you know what I mean? It's an
Yeah.
eyesore, and then they go there and they take it down, but I was saying, like, isn't it's still the property owner's property, even if you took the building down or whatever?
Yes and no. So there are a number of different avenues that you can go through. Eminent domain is one. The redevelopment process is another. Each one of them has very specific requirements. So I think what you're talking about is a scenario in which an area is condemned for redevelopment, and
Yeah.
in which case there are certain property rights that that property owner loses and can reacquire through the redevelopment agreement if they are, if they put in to be the redeveloper of the property. So the township hasn't taken ownership of the property itself, but the township has taken ownership over the development rights for the property. Is that a good way to say it? Okay. Yeah, so that when the township takes over the development rights for the property, that redeveloper's agreement then has to be put together, usually involves land use attorneys putting it together in a way that makes sense. And then a redeveloper is then chosen by the township to come in and implement the redevelopment project. None of that usually happens without some sort of compensation being paid to the property owner at the end of the day. In an eminent domain proceeding, that compensation usually comes directly from the township, depending on market values. With a redevelopment agreement, oftentimes the developer will end up paying that cost as part of their bid application to be the redeveloper for that property. And it can often involve multiple properties or just one property, depending on the facts and circumstances. I mean, honestly, you could take a 4-hour seminar on it and barely scratch the surface.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, a very, very 10,000 feet from the top overview of how that would work. So it's different types of property rights that are being affected depending on which process it goes through.
Okay, because I just was curious because I seen someone was condemning a field, like, just a regular, like, grass and stuff like that, an open field. I was just wondering, and I know what you're saying, but it's very extensive. You have to know that property law and all that information, and it's too extensive for you to give me the whole rundown, but I appreciate that you've given me you have given me. Thank you.
That's what I'm here for. So.
Okay.
Thank you. Any additional comments, Councilman Patil? Just want to make sure.
No, I covered. Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you. Councilman Patel.
So, Sonia, I wanted to start off with the website. I think I emailed you, last week about getting process and how I can get more information on it?
Sure, that's still under review. The person that's in our office is handling that, and she is not here this week, so I will follow up with her next week.
Okay. Also, I know we had a discussion earlier for Grove Ave. We were going to do 25 miles per hour throughout. Did we land anywhere on that?
I will follow up with the police because ultimately that's between engineering and police for their recommendation on the entire strip. If that is something that the township council wants to look into, then we'll make sure that that's something that we look into. And yeah, good.
Okay. And then purchase of 204 Tyler Road. That is something Open Space is interested in. I know we emailed you in regards to it. Is there an update on that?
Can you repeat that? Open space?
Yeah, 204 Tyler Road. I think Council President emailed you in regards to purchasing 204 Tyler. I think it's less than 1 acre lot for $300,000. Tyler, Tyler. Just wanted to update on that, and then I know
That would, I'm sorry, that would go to legal in terms of the mayor and our legal counsel for their review if there's a purchase of a property.
Okay. I know we discussed OCR for scans. Do we have a timeline as to, I know we were going to discuss with Jeff as to how we can get that done. Is there some timeline on it?
I actually found out that the township, and sorry for interjecting, the Adobe DC program actually has that function in it. So we have that capability now.
Okay, so we just need to start using it because I think that would really help us do searching within the massive documents that we get.
And if anybody needs any assistance, they can certainly come to IT and we can run them down on how to do that.
Okay.
Or we can do it for you, whichever you'd prefer.
I'm okay with anything as long as it gets me the OCR scans. I know we had the ordinance for safe route to school. Did we apply for that or did we not apply at the end?
We did not apply because the referenced street Inman Ave is a county road,
Okay.
and that would require county review.
Would that be a partial application or it doesn't work like that?
It wouldn't work.
Okay, so maybe we can keep that in mind for the next year. Would that be?
Yes, I would recommend that we do that way ahead of time because their engineering department need to look at the plans and if that's something that they would have an appetite for.
Okay. And then I think Councilman Patil already updated on the crossing lights. I think we were getting around 30, hopefully.
Yes, DPW did put that
a
into
request.
for
All right.
the budget.
And I say that's it for now.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. Council Vice President Harris.
Yes, I'm glad that Lois Tarr is still here because we on Cultural Arts Committee are wondering what's the deal in terms of us becoming a commission. I had emailed the mayor last month to ask this question. We have everything in place at this point, and I'm wondering what the holdup is. It's really holding us up from being able to fundraise, get grants, funds, and all of that. Do you have anything to enlighten us with regard to the commission status?
I would refer to legal in terms of the component of and how to structure that. We have a cultural arts committee. They're going to do great things. They've done great things, obviously, downstairs. So what they would like to do is become a commission.
I'm going to have to look into that.
Sir, it requires an ordinance. I can send you the ones from each other.
Yeah, no, I know it requires an ordinance, but I'm not sure what the requirements within the ordinance.
For our town?
Yeah, have to be done. So off the top of my head, I can't give you that information right now, but I'm happy to look into that for you and get you a more extensive answer.
Yeah, because you can check the surrounding places because they do have it in the Touching and Highland Park, and they're able to, like Councilwoman Harris says, they're able to get money to have more programs. That's the only way they can get, and they can get funding and stuff is through those means. But ultimately, this has to come down from the mayor, does it not? Yes. And so I don't understand what the delay has been with this.
So just in the form of any ordinance that the council may want. It would be a combination between a legal review, administration, and so it would be a group effort. So we wouldn't want to, whatever it is you would want to happen, if it's a commission per se, we want to make sure that we would be able to do that through the legal process, like establishing the ordinance or whatever what we may be allowed to do in terms of the structure of our government in Edison.
It bothers me that I sent out this email, and I think I copied you on it, did I not, Lois? I sent out this email, I think sometime early last month. I have heard nothing. I got no response whatsoever. And I would appreciate, at the very least, a response and maybe some kind of time frame on this. Because we're really playing small ball right now. We want more. Yes.
I can give the solution because we are running out of time now for that ordinance. If you can work, because attorney also works for the council, you can directly ask attorney to draft an ordinance, and we can introduce. You can put that under, if administration is not willing to move in one of those categories, we can put that under clerk, and we pass the ordinance.
Talk to you. Let me talk to you about that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anything else?
Nope.
Thank you, Council Vice President Harris. Councilman Toyle already spoke, and Councilman Brescher.
I'll start off with the good ones. I'd like to thank the administration and all of our departments. And the reason why I say all, because I know I'll miss one like my council colleague did, for the whole thing that they did for the whole Christmas thing, the Winter Wonderland. Thought it was very, very nice. And it was nice when I heard that people volunteered their time. It was nice to hear that. So I'd like to say thank you to everybody, and I wish them all, Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah, being that today is Hanukkah. I'd like to get some follow-up, but when I say follow-up, I know some of these things are being worked on, but I'm looking to get a timeline on these items. They don't have to actually be precise, but I'm looking to get a general timeline so that I could do follow-up, so I don't have to ask the same question every meeting, right? One would be the flooding on Grove Avenue and the head of the drains. Two would be the Polanski Park. And I do know that I heard we're working on it, but just some kind of general timeline. It takes 2 months to design or something, just so I know when to do my follow-ups, that's all. 3, paving for North Edison baseball. You see, Floyd Street, that sidewalk going to J.P. Stevens, it has the ditch that we have to apply for. Some kind of timeline again. Ooh. Senior programs, I received that document. The tree fund. Can I get a list of how much money is in our tree fund and how much we've expended over the last 2 years in planting trees? Not bushes and not taking it to put exercise equipment in a park or something like that, but how many trees we've actually planted in the last 2 years from that tree fund. Okay, master plan. I haven't been paying attention to the master plan. I'm not on the master plan. I was afraid to go to the meeting of the master plan because the last time that I went to a zoning board meeting, I was told that I'm not allowed to go to a zoning board meeting. So I'm not really sure if I can partake in planning board meetings either. But my question with this is, because what I heard from my council colleague was they're putting it together. It's then going to come to this body for approval. After
they go through the planning board approval.
So here's my question. So I'm not paying any attention to this, right? It goes through the planning board. They approve it. But I have objections to it. How does that get rectified? Or, does this just come up and then everybody just votes yes, except for me?
From my understanding, legal, correct me if I'm wrong, the planning board would approve whatever they think is right. They'll come to this body, and we have our authority to say, hey, we like this, we like this. We need to see this change, and I believe we can send it back to planning board for reapproval.
Yeah, you can always send it back.
Okay, so it's just not a come here and we just vote yes on it. Thank you. Perfect. 1, 2, 3. To my council colleagues with the animal shelter, I agree with my colleague to my left that said we should do something immediately. And I think he is right, because in our meeting and in our discussions, there does seem to be some immediate actions, but I think we would like to get together, and even if we do it via Zoom, so we can just come up with some of the, quick things that we think we need to be done, whether it's adding personnel or buying, a lock cabinet or whatever it is, so we can make these recommendations to the administration. So I would like to see us do that. Amazon. Now, I didn't give this update in the committee reports, but Amazon went to court, and the judge at the court made a recommendation that he's not looking to see Amazon come back to court with Edison. He's saying that this mayor and this council need to resolve this, okay? In some other way besides going there to court and just getting another $100 fine or whatever the fine is. So the judge is actually getting annoyed that we're not enforcing our laws to a point where our businesses are complying. So I'd like to see if our administration can kind of give us an update. Are we getting that machine to measure the sound? Like what steps can we do? And if I can just get that update for our next meeting, if we can get like a whole plan as to how we plan on tackling this, so we don't go back to court for a $100 fine. Where I was going with it was that we should be fining them every day there's noise, not just once a week type of thing. The judge is starting to believe that it's not happening once a week, so we're not even fining them every day that there is noise. So where I'm going is we should look at it every day, and if it is every day, then maybe legal would need to be involved to sit down and say, hey, they're breaking the laws here on a regular basis. How can we stop them at this point? So if we can just get maybe an update, something from the administration on what the plan might be for our next meeting, I'd appreciate that. Well, 5 is an ugly one. I've heard, and I don't know that this is entirely true, that we have a hotel in Edison that there's like drugs and prostitution, and people know about it. Does our law enforcement know about this, or is everything hunky-dory at all of our hotels? And I'm sorry, Chief, but I had a report of a place, and it's not the first time this place was reported to me. I don't want to say it because if they're a good neighbor.
I'd be more than happy to talk to you offline, and we can address a particular hotel that you've heard rumors about, and I'd be more than happy to speak to you about that.
And could you also pull records on it so that I could see if arrests or cars were called there?
Calls for service, that sort of thing?
Like that
Sure,
kind of thing.
absolutely.
Thank you very much, sir. And my final item, rice notice, right? We talked about this a little earlier, came up at the last meeting. For the attorney, I guess I'm trying to understand the point of a rice notice and when they have to be notified. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I think my perception might be different than yours or the administration's or something.
It may be. My understanding of what a rice notice is and my experience with having used them for years, several years at this point. Whenever the council wishes to discuss subject matter which may involve employment status, whether positive or negative, of a employee, they're required to provide that employee with notice and an opportunity to have the matter heard in closed session rather than in public session.
Okay.
That's the simplest way to explain it.
Okay, now oh, Sonia.
And if I could add to that, with representation of legal counsel, potentially?
Yes.
That's what the notice requirement really, it gives you the opportunity for. You can request it. You don't have to bring legal counsel. There's no requirement in the notice that we advise you that you have the right to legal counsel. The notice is simply to advise you of the date and time at which matters affecting your employment may be discussed by the council, and provide you with an opportunity to request that the council hold that meeting in closed session rather than a public forum.
Now, I'm going to ask you to look into that, okay, because I don't believe that to be entirely true. But I believe that an employee can ask for the venue to be changed. But when I was on the school board, we riced every employee at every meeting so that we could speak to them. And then what happened was the law changed, okay? And it was no longer like of that nature. Because with the issue that we had today, I mean, like in reality, you only have one people for each one of these things. Like if we're talking police officers, or if we're talking prosecutors, we have multiple prosecutors, right?
I understand that, but just if I can interrupt you just for a second, you're not talking about the people in that resolution, though, and I think that's part of what the confusion is. You're talking about the position. You're talking about the position itself. You're not talking about the people or the employees within that position.
Well, when you're talking, okay, and this is where I'm going. So when we're talking about giving someone a raise, right? Or we're established, well, then you know what? We shouldn't give any ranges. It should just be the raise that they're looking for.
Except that's not what the ordinance, I'm
Okay,
sorry, but that's not what that
again-
does that's in front of you. It doesn't give anyone a raise. That would be a separate determination.
Right, this goes back to, that whole thing that we were talking about, right? Where it shouldn't be about that, because this isn't about a position, right? Not when positions have been paid in full, all the way to the top already. So we're talking about whether individuals deserve raises, right?
No, because that's a separate determination. You're talking about whether or not that position should have the opportunity or ability to be paid a higher rate.
So let me ask you a
But the
question.
raise determination would be made under a different determination.
Okay, so
it would be a different.
Under any one of these here, right? If they require a license, but we don't have a license, how does that get determined into this thing here? Because it doesn't say anything about people having to have licenses or any qualifications. Should we have a job description for each one that comes with this?
I believe that there are. I'm sorry, Mr. Pointer.
No, my instinct is to say that that's based on our code. Like in our code, it'll say, pardon me, establishes, all the director levels in our code, and it should have those qualifications in there. At least that would be my instinct in terms of.
In general, that's how that would work, is that you would define the roles either.
So why don't we get a
code or
copy?
through
Why
other
don't we get a
means,
copy
but
of
that's
that?
not
Why
what
don't we
that
get a
does.
copy of that also when we get this? And my second question is, if we can't talk about individuals, right, unless we rice people, why can't we rice every employee like we did on the school board? School board did. Jonathan Bush did it. You know Jonathan Bush?
So
Mayor of Metuchen, the school board guy. He used to rice every employee. Is that an option?
I would not recommend that approach. My
Well, I'm not
understanding
ask-
is.
I didn't- wait, now I just
you
asked
the
I asked
question.
you
So
a
if
question,
you-
right? I asked you, can
Yeah.
we? And what you said was, I'm not going to recommend. I didn't ask you. It was a simple yes or no. Can you?
So, as I said, I would not recommend that approach, because at that point, you've essentially created so much noise, there's no signal, and anyone challenging it might have a valid reason for challenging it. Under that hypothetical where you just sent out, a couple hundred rice notices to every employee that you can think of,
Schools did it
and
for,
did it every every session so that you could talk with impunity about whatever employees that you wanted in public session. Yeah, it's an attempt to circumvent the rules. So I would not recommend it.
Every school in New Jersey did this, right? And you're not recommending it, but my question was, can we do it? Right? That was my question. I love attorneys, right? You ask them a question, can we go right or left? And they go, let's do a little wiggle. My question was, can we do it or can we not?
You can do anything you want, but I'm telling you that it's not recommended.
I didn't ask for the opinion. See, that's the problem here. When I don't ask for the opinion, I ask for a simple answer.
If you'd like.
You can give me the simple answer first, right? Wait, I'm talking. Yeah. Your job is to give me the simple answer first, and then if you want to expand upon it and give me your opinion, right, that might be okay. But when I ask the question, I'm looking just for an answer. I'm not looking for the lawyer, I call it lawyer mumbo jumbo stuff. Not to offend any lawyers that might be in the room, but but you know where I'm going is I'm looking just for the simple fact of it, right? I'm not looking for all the commentary. If I want a commentary, I'd watch sportscasters or something else on this. So the question is that the question was answered that yes, it can be done.
Well, no, not exactly.
Oh, it can't be done.
That's why I can't give you a simple answer. Is I can't think of any municipal agency that currently does that or that does that now. And I'm not familiar enough with what you're describing, a school board that literally sent it out to every employee for every meeting, to be able to tell you with certainty whether or not that was ever challenged or ruled against. So if you'd like me to go investigate whether you can do that in order to notify every employee for every meeting that their employment may be discussed, I can do that. But in the meantime, my answer remains unchanged, is I would not recommend that because I can see it very
going to tell you
easily
this.
being challenged and
Let me
lost.
tell you this. I'm going to recommend that you put out a rice notice to everybody on this sheet right here, okay? Because I am going to talk about individual employees, okay? So your job is to protect this town and this body, right? So I'm saying, and I said this to council president last meeting when we were talking about the rice notice. So from now on, right, as you being our attorney, if you see anything that could potentially be related to an employee, right, I'm saying you should do that because I am going to talk about it. And then we're going to be open to litigation. So I'm just putting you on notice that anything like this that happens, right, your firm should do this. That would be it, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Rusher.
I just wanted to say with the rights notice,
Councilman Rusher Freeman.
look up Kane University and look up Rice and look at how that case came out.
Thank you. For myself, I do not have any discussion items. I will allow for any final discussion items. Seeing none.
Council President, just I
Councilman-
want to add one.
Yes, Councilman Patil.
I spoke about the tax sale through Council President Sane. If you look at, there are, I think, 2 addresses, and the ownership says Edison Township. If you can please look at that. It's a tax delinquent. I don't know. Is it somebody is using the Edison Township name, or those are our properties and we didn't pay the taxes to ourselves? I don't know that. But if you can look at the tax sale document. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Patil. Any other comments? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Patil, second by Council Vice President Harris. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? This meeting stands adjourned.